All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. Going to do a chat today about who the best rock frontman is with Chris, Jenkins, and Dusty, all of whom either currently are musicians in bands or I don't think Dusty currently is, but you used to be for a long time. And I know we were talking a little bit before about who my best pick is for the best rock frontman is Marilyn Manson. Jenkins picked is Bon Scott, sorry. So to start off with, Dusty and Chris, which are your guys' picks for the best rock frontman?
I got like three. I picked like top three, but if I have to pick
three is fine. Three is fine.
Yeah, well, I like three. I just kind of wanted to like mention, but I got if I had to give it to one person, it's tough because I want to give it to Paul McCartney, but the problem with that is that like he wasn't really a frontman in the Beatles. He kind of shared that spotlight with John, so to give him that title is kind of, I don't know, it didn't sit well with me. So, but my other top choice would have been Tom York from Radiohead. So it'd be my two top guys for like best rock frontman. And yeah, I have like a whole bunch of list of reasons why, but Dusty can give his top person.
Okay, yeah, Dusty, who's yours?
Well, mine was easy. It is Brian Setzer.
I haven't even heard of him before.
Oh man.
Yeah, Brian Setzer is a rockabilly guitarist who's also the vocalist, and he has like a bunch of like band projects. So if you're into Christmas music, you may have heard of Brian Setzer Orchestra, but he does swing music.
Oh, okay.
He also had a very small band called the Stray Cats, which kind of got him famous, and that band is more of a rockabilly band with three-piece, him, a bassist, and a drummer, and then of course Brian Setzer Orchestra is an entire big band. So it's he's a really damn good guitarist. That's why I like him.
Yeah.
And he's the reason why I own a Gretsch, and that's like my main guitar. So, yeah, Brian Setzer.
Now you're muted, dude.
Super obscure.
Not if you're the right age. If you're the right age, he's known. These youngsters.
I think he was on the Swingers soundtrack, if I'm not mistaken. That's the last time I heard of Brian Setzer. But I also dived into that kind of ska and swing stuff when, all that was popular for a week or two when Swingers, the movie, came out.
Yeah, he may have been.
He's an
he may have been
amazing
like
guitarist.
1982 or 3.
Yeah. Because I'm mostly a jazz guy, and the thing that Brian Setzer does is he like bridges the gap between jazz and rock. So a lot of his solos are very blues and jazz based. So that's why I really like him, and I always try to incorporate his solo style within my jazz playing.
Gotcha.
And he's an actual frontman, so he plays the guitar and he sings. So his name is in the name of the band, Brian Setzer Orchestra. And yeah, I like that he has that skill to both, be the lead guitarist and lead the band at the same time.
Okay.
Debuted in 1981 with Stray Cats.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Even I was a kid in 1981. So
yeah, I was like a baby in 1981.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
But I didn't discover. I
wasn't even born yet. I was still sperm in my dad's balls.
Sweet.
Yeah, I didn't discover him until Guitar Hero 2, and I was like, holy shit, this is the shit.
Oh, so I
that's when
probably
I
have
got all
heard
into
some of his
music.
songs on that before.
Yeah, which one's on there?
Well, this only has one. Which one? Rock This
Rock
Town
This
is
Town?
on there.
Yeah.
That's kind of his biggest like Stray Cats hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been to a couple of his concerts. It's all his fun stuff.
Cool.
So I don't want to be a stickler here, Dusty, but with the jazz background, this is best rock frontman. It says right on the banner underneath.
Yeah, but he's a
Brian
rock,
Setzer totally,
rockabilly.
yeah, totally
Rockabilly.
qualifies.
Rockabilly's rock. It's
is.
like straight up one of the oldest forms of rock you could think of. It's
Just
like
don't want you
right there
throwing
with-
in Pat Metheny or anything like that.
Oh no! I'm not throwing in like Django Reinhardt and shit like that. No.
Better not.
Wait, you guys are more
No,
knowledgeable about this
he's
than me.
definitely a rock.
Who were the last two people you mentioned?
Django Reinhardt was a fantastic
Reinhardt.
guitar player.
He's probably like one of the best guitar players that ever lived, but he
Wow.
only had like one of his hands didn't fully function.
Yeah,
which
crazy.
is more insane. Like one of his hands he used to fret wasn't even a fully functional hand, and
Wow.
he could play like crazy like solos at 240 BPM, and it's basically, if you ever listen to the SpongeBob soundtrack, that's basically the type of music.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh really? Oh okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
I can remember that theme song. I still know some of the lyrics because it's so catchy.
He's worth checking out. I was just joking about the jazz because they're like some of those jazz guys were like, especially the older ones, the Artie Shaw, were rock and roll. It just didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
But you listen to the Thundering Herd, it's crazy.
Jazz was kind of some of the roots along with blues for what became rock and roll, if I understand correctly, right?
Yeah. But even when Setzer was doing the orchestra, he was playing rock because he was playing like his. You listen to any of the Setzer swing band songs, he's not playing in a jazz style. He has distortion on his guitar. He's playing mostly bluesy, but I would consider that rock as well. Like if you just listen, it's more rock than jazz when he was doing his orchestra stuff. And Stray Cats is straight up rock. He's not doing any jazz stuff there.
Okay. Cool.
You could make rock is such a broad genre that you could make the case that Marilyn Manson isn't necessary. Well, he's rock, but I would classify him as more metal.
Yeah.
Than rock.
Well, and then it depends on whether you classify metal as rock or its own genre too, right?
Yeah, and the same with Radiohead. I mean, Radiohead was started off as rock, but they had a few albums that were kind of more electronic based, right? So they're kind of hard to classify as well. But yeah,
right. Yeah, for me, I guess the reason why I think Marilyn Manson is the best rock frontman, it's because like he's the most like you said, he's a shock rocker, and to me he kind of like he carries on the tradition of people like Ozzy Osbourne and Alice Cooper, like trying to freak people out by being all demonic, like for example Ozzy Osbourne making it seem like he bit the head off a bat in one of his concerts and stuff like that, and Marilyn Manson he makes himself into this demonic figure rather. Like one of his albums is and one of his songs is called Antichrist Superstar, and then he also, I think this is interesting for our current culture too, he was a cross-dresser starting back in the 90s when that was actually like a cool and rebellious thing to do and not like all this woke type of thing to do like it now was. So it added to like his demonic personality. So I think he was like into freaking people out. So it just in terms of just in terms of him being a frontman, that's kind of why I think he is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
well,
my
'cause-
second choice, I would have actually picked Prince as my second choice.
Yeah, I was thinking about him.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Prince is a good one too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
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 there's a lot of similarities, really.
yeah, actually, yeah.
And if you think like, so Marilyn Manson's the name of the band, but nobody
Mhm.
thinks of the band. They think of him. And Prince isn't the name of the band, but a big part of Prince is his band. But nobody cares about them either, you know? You
Yeah,
might
that's
recognize
true.
the lady that wore the garter belt, but that's
Well, he
everything
had a
else is
bunch of
Prince.
different bands, you know.
And the cool
He had-
guy in 1999 that goes, "Life is just a party, and party's what meant." That's the only other guy I remember from Prince's band.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I
Wendy
literally
and
Yeah,
don't
Lisa.
remember
Coolest.
anyone.
Oh, Wendy and Lisa. You got to
Yes,
remember
Wendy
them.
and Lisa. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
was-
yeah, that's a good point. So Jenkins, why do you think Bon Scott is the best frontman?
I mean, I didn't know he could pick more than one, but he
Oh,
'cause
you can go
he-
into more than one too. I only picked one, but we can talk about as many as possible.
yeah, I have a few, but like he's got Angus Young acting like a maniac, running up and down the stage, but he holds his own. He brings you in. I mean, I never got to see him, but even when you watch his live performances, to me, the front man is bringing the crowd in and letting them have permission to have fun with the band. And that's what, like, if you look at pictures of Bon Scott, he's got that gleam. And he always has that gleam in his eye and a little smirk. And he just commanded the stage. He'd stand there with his jeans up to his ribs almost, but somehow managed to make it look super cool. You know, just everything about Bon Scott is super cool.
Yeah. And when you mentioned that when we were talking like a little while ago about this, that in combination with the new ACDC album coming out, I just thought, so I like some of the songs on the new album, but I thought a lot of them were mediocre. So you mentioning Bon Scott made me want to go back and listen to all of the Bon Scott stuff. And I was thinking, man, Bon Scott is I like him more than Brian Johnson too, partially because like he seems to have like more of a sense of humor. Like they had more dirty songs back then. Like She's Got the Jack, obviously,
Right.
like She Got the Clap, and like Love at First Feel, and like She's Got Balls, and You've got big balls. I've got big balls. We've got the biggest balls of all, and Whole Lot of Rosie, a song about banging a fat chick.
Okay, that's why. That's all you have to know for why Bon Scott is to me top of the pops is the If You Want Blood You Got It live album by them.
Oh yeah,
because it's got all that. It's got everything. And I like Brian Johnson, but to me, yeah, the clever. I know it's clever in a very sophomoric way, but it was clever. Yeah, the Jack, great.
Yeah, well, and like that in that era too. You couldn't be as explicit in music as like a lot of rappers are today, for example. Like they'll say the N-word all over the place and they'll like swear all over the place and be really explicit about stuff. You had to be more creative and create innuendos and stuff.
Right. And they had some fun ones.
Yeah. So what were your other picks then that you were just thinking of?
Oh man, David Lee Roth.
Oh yeah.
I prefer Bon Scott because I like the music better, or I like his. Yeah, it's. I'm not saying I don't like Van Halen as much as ACDC, but ACDC I do prefer a bit. So David Lee Roth, and then a more modern one is this guy named Eric Nally from a band called Foxy Shazam. Is a fantastic frontman too, and he's a bit of a maniac. So David Lee Roth has the rock god thing down. Bon Scott has the rock and roll thing down. Eric Nally is just kind of crazy, and the music's great if that's your type of music.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with him.
They've got some good stuff. They broke up for 6 years, but they reformed just in time for Corona. Recommend. Look up Church of Rock and Roll, and I think it's just called Foxy Shazam.
Okay.
And then another one would be Justin Hawkins from The Darkness. Great frontman.
Oh, is that the
Excellent voice.
that band where that guy sings in a really high voice?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's good too.
They're probably the best touring rock and roll band at this point. If you ever get a chance to see them, you'll be delighted.
Oh yeah, I bet that'd be awesome.
Supposed to go see them in May. But that didn't happen either.
Oh man, that reminds me, like right before coronavirus, I was making plans with my brother to go to Vancouver and see the Joe Rogan live comedy show on 420. And then we couldn't go because it got canceled. I'm like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot of that show-wise last year.
Yeah. Okay, so Chris, we didn't get into your reasons for why you think Paul McCartney, and I forget who the other guys you mentioned who you said are the best rock frontman.
Radiohead.
Yeah, the Radiohead guy. Yeah,
Tom York, and if I were to give a third, it might have been like a Dave Grohl.
Yeah, he's good too. Yeah.
My looking at this is I like all those guys that you mentioned, Manson, and Ozzy Osbourne. My problem with them is that, like, when I think about a front man, I like guys that are like 5-tool like players in baseball, right? If you can hit, you can run, you can catch, you can steal, you can do all those things, then you're a good all around player, right? You have a good what they call WAR. Like Mike Trout is a perfect example of this. He can do all those things. That's why he's the best player in baseball. Marilyn Manson was a good frontman. He can scare people and he can sing, but you don't see him holding the guitar a lot of the times. You don't see him going and play the bass. He's just been Marilyn Manson. He hasn't been through multiple, different bands. My reasoning for Paul McCartney is he's played all instruments. This guy's done hits on the piano, guitar. He's also been in Wings. He's also had a good solo career. Same with Tom York. Tom York is great vocal, and like not all strengths on all areas for all these guys, but they check off a lot of those boxes. If frontman is really good at playing guitar and really good at singing, that's awesome. But to me, if you are really good at playing, like Prince, I was also thinking of Prince because Prince can play like apparently 100, or he could play 100 different instruments. He was really good at the keyboard. He really killed it at guitar. But he was also a really good bass player too, and I've heard that he also played drums from time to time. So he was a guy that he was a full-on musician. He mastered not just guitar, but he also delved into all those other things. And for me, as a good like front man, I want a guy that can just. That's why I said Dave Grohl as well, because Dave Grohl played drums, obviously in Nirvana, but he also went on to do Foo Fighters, sang, played guitar. And the first Foo Fighters album, he did all himself. That's him on drums, that's him on backing vocals, that's him on bass. Right. You know what I mean? So you move a little bit more up the hierarchy for me, the more you can do as a musician, and not just be good at guitar or not just be good at bass. You know what I mean? You can find all those kind of guys out there, like the guy from Rolling Stones, for example. What's his name?
Which one?
Jagger?
Yeah, Mick Jagger, right? Really good singer, really good dancer, but you never see him with a guitar in his hands. He's never behind the piano, or you know what I mean? And it's just, for me, a good frontman or a good guy to lead a band is somebody that is well-rounded in all types of music, not just a specialist in either just singing or guitar or just both. You got to check off like a bunch of check marks for me.
Oh yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I totally forgot that Dave Grohl played drums for Nirvana, but I did remember hearing before that for his first album he played all the instruments and did singing, and then had to hire a band for touring. That's an interesting subject that we could get into though, like someone's persona as a front-man versus like their ability to do multiple things, like sing and also play instruments. What do you think about that, Jenkins and Dusty?
You want to go first, Dusty?
I'll go first. I think my picks definitely favor virtuosity. So Like, I think Setzer's a sleeper. Just people just don't realize how good of a guitarist he is. He just plays like these crazy ass licks. Like I know he's done a cover of Flight of the Bumblebee that sounds
Oh, really?
yeah, it sounds insane. I'm like, how the hell does someone play that? But that's the thing too, is like he can actually play instrumentals. There's no lyrics on Flight of the Bumblebee, yet he has like a rock version of it. Because there's this one album he has where he just plays a bunch of crazy and extremely technical classical music.
Oh, okay.
And that's probably the most crazy I've ever heard him play. But, he actually sings. He gets people on the dance floor dancing. I don't think he plays anything other than guitar, but his guitar work is amazing. And then, of course, Prince, I would consider a high-level guitarist. And plus, he had so much skill in other instruments. Like, the craziest thing about him is he can tell any person on his band exactly what to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he could do it himself.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had any trouble, he could just go to them, this is how I want you to play it, and he'll show them how to play it. And they would just have to mimic that. So I also found him like very unique in that way, that he understood all of the band members' roles and how to play them and show them. Because he wrote all the music himself, and then he'd have to, give it to the band and show them how to play, or give them pointers. And a lot of his albums, some of the ones that weren't really released, he did actually play all the instruments in some of these tracks. So,
wow. So how did he and like Dave Grohl, for example, how did they record albums with them playing all the instruments? Like, did they have to record them playing each instrument and singing separately and then kind of mix it together?
Yeah, they multi-track.
Probably just listening to a metronome. You listen to a metronome, or and then you build the track and you can listen to it. Because usually you would start with the most rhythmic instrument, like maybe the drums or bass, and then you would play on top of that. I don't know if he started with something like the guitar, but I'm not really sure which instrument he would use first to ground the track.
Okay.
I think it's drums. Like I'm doing solo stuff right now where I'm doing drums, bass, guitar, piano, everything. And the first thing we're laying down is drums first. And then once you have a bed line of drums, then it's easier to go through and add your bass and your guitar and layer it on top of that. So it's usually drums comes first, all the other instruments come after. But it's multi-tracking. So you use like Pro Tools, for example, and you lay down your drum track and then you record over top of it with a bass track, and then
Okay.
Yeah, or you like use a loop. So I'm like a terrible drummer. I'm terrible at everything, but I'm a really terrible drummer. So I'll just use a drum loop, and then I'll put everything on top of it badly, and then I'll bring it to everybody else. And then when we're going to really record it, the drummer will do a scratch track where we all play along with the drummer, and then we'll go and add each of our parts to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
it's maddening and also super fun.
Oh yeah, I bet. You just made me have a good question to ask all three of you. Actually, what musical ability do you think you are the best at?
Probably guitar.
Okay.
I'm not really good at any instrument. I can play every instrument mediocre and get by. Like I started off playing in punk bands as a drummer, so I know how to play drums. But I played bass in alternative bands here for a while, and I currently play and sing and play guitar in my own band right now. So I've done I've been in bands where I've done everything, but mostly because they were like, hey, we need a guy to be a bass player. And it was like, sure, I'll pick up a bass and learn how to play it and yada yada. But I never really mastered any instrument. I just learned how to play everything.
Oh, okay. If you guys ever want me to be in one of your bands, just teach me how to play an instrument and I'll do that.
It's fairly easy to do these days, man. Like
I'll give you
YouTube.
a triangle or a cowbell.
Oh yeah,
That's a
I
good
bet I
place to
can do
start.
that. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like it reminds me of how there are like 9 members in Slipknot, and one of them like plays the trash cans.
The right software, you can make the trash cans sound like anything you want. So
Yeah.
send me a file. Send me a file, and I'll do a terrible song with it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like whether like a performer's persona or their ability to like multitask and sing and also play instruments and stuff, I think that's like it really depends on who we're talking about. Kind of what you guys were alluding to, like what my favorite band for a long time, starting when I was in high school, was Metallica. And I guess I never really thought about what James Hetfield is like as a frontman, but he does obviously multitask. He plays he plays rhythm guitar and also sings. And I mean, like, you can compare him to other guys who multitask, or you could compare him to other frontmen who just sing, like Marilyn Manson or someone like that. And like, it depends on who you compare him to, because you could also compare him to Prince, and then you could say, I mean, in terms of frontman, probably the latter two are better just frontman, even though I would say Metallica is still one of my favorite bands. And so I guess also in terms of what your favorite band is, that depends on how much you value there being a good frontman, in terms of that versus how you define what makes a good band, I guess, right?
Yeah. So like one of the most badass things Prince does, and Justin Hawkins does it. Anybody who does this, I love. They'll sing, and then when it's time for the solo, someone will come out and hand him the guitar, and then he'll hand the guitar back.
Oh, that's cool.
That's so because for me it's all persona and presence. Like what Dusty is it Chris? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's Chris.
Chris, we're describing to me is more like the band leader. But like David Lee Roth is not a good singer. He writes interesting lyrics to music that should be impossible, but he's a great frontman. So like I look at it more like the like we call one of our catch or hashtags for my band is punk rock circus, and like the frontman is the ringmaster kind of person, the fool willing to go up in front of people without any instruments. I forget who described it. Most of the time, the singer is just someone brave enough to get up there and be the singer. And
you're saying like the frontman has no special skill other than to like hype up
for me,
like, the situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I personally love. That if
like
they're a good
Flavor
singer, that's a
Flav.
plus. But you don't have to be a good singer.
So
you're talking like Flavor Flav, or he's not rock, but he kind of serves the same purpose.
Yeah, that's a tough one because Chuck D is commanding, but yeah.
If you talk about that in terms of rap, that's a good point to get into too, because there are rappers who have a good presence, but then there are rappers who I prefer who have a worse presence than other rappers because I think they're better rappers. Like, I guess in terms of rap, I usually prefer rappers who are just better rappers, like I don't know, like Logic or Eminem or some of like you could go with classics like Biggie or Tupac. Like I like Biggie more just because I like his flow more, even though they both have really good lyrics.
I love that Biggie and Tupac are classics.
Yeah.
Yeah, frontman and rap is more like a Busta Rhymes type. Super flamboyant.
Yeah.
And pretty crazy, but he's also really good at rapping.
That's true.
It just struck me today, and I don't even know why. I don't know even why I thought of him. Oh, because he shows up in a band video from the early 90s, late 80s, LL Cool J.
Yeah.
If you listen to his rap, it's not very good.
It's not very good.
But
No.
it just comes across so well because he's so good at putting it across. Like when this band covered his song, that's a lie. They're called Too Much Joy, and you listen to the lyrics, like these are really dumb lyrics, but I really like LL Cool J.
Yeah.
He's got a charisma.
I feel that way about Jay-Z a lot. I don't think he's that good of a rapper, but his lyrics are cool and his rhythms are cool and his persona is kind of cool.
My hip hop falls in line exactly with, well, not exactly, but pretty much how I was kind of going through, having different tools. Like I really like Pharrell, for example, who killed it in Nerd, but then you also did a good solo career. But again, he was also a guy that could play keys and do all that kind of stuff. And I like the Beastie Boys too, but they played instruments and then they didn't play instruments. Any hip hop guy that came around, I still listen to hip hop now. If they make their own beats and they make their own rhymes and they're a good friend, you know what I mean? Like the more you do that, awesome. A guy like Busta Rhymes or like LL Cool J, I don't know. They're great. No issues with them as frontman. It's just, they didn't really. LL Cool J to me is kind of just a one-hit wonder. He had a few good tracks and that was it.
He has a very good greatest hits album.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But even that's only 75%.
Yeah, but when I think of like a good like hip hop or good rock or whatever, artistic kind of longevity kind of matters too. If you're a guy that puts out one good album, that's it. The rest are kind of flaky. Like, unfortunately, I think Foo Fighters put out 2 good albums and then the rest have kind of been shitty. So that's why I didn't really put Dave Grohl as my top. But if you're like a Paul McCartney, where you put out consistent material throughout different kind of, he's got like 10 or 12 albums you could probably list as pretty solid. And same with Tom York. He's got every Radiohead is got high critically acclaimed reviews. Same with his solo stuff. It's all critically acclaimed too. So if you have that artistic longevity and you can keep going, changing it up and making it interesting for the listener over decades, like a Prince, I think that holds a lot of water too. Instead of just a guy like an LL Cool J that just comes up over one area of decade, has a few hits, and then you never hear from him again.
Goes into acting.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm done with that. Yeah. Again, to me, it just goes. You described earlier, Andrew, that I'm a musician. I've never made a claim to that, and anytime, the few times my band has been interviewed, we always make a point to say, well, we never said we're musicians. So my guitar player plays guitar, and my drummer, who is actually a musician, is a good drummer. But for me, frontman is about the show. Like, do any of you think Rush has a frontman?
Yeah, I would say Neil Peart.
Yeah, right. Like the drummer is.
Interesting.
But I want to listen to them like crazy. But like the one I'm watching is Neil Peart.
But I could listen to Rush and love them on album, and I've seen Rush live and love them in live too. I could do both, right? Whereas like a Marilyn Manson, I would only go to see live. I don't really put on his records.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting too. Like, why do you consider Neil Peart the best frontman? Because I guess maybe I probably haven't thought about this as much as you guys. Because I guess I consider Geddy Lee the frontman just because, like, whenever I hear a Rush song, I always, like, you can't help noticing his voice, especially like their older stuff that my uncle introduced me to when I was a kid, like 2112. Some of his singing in that is just fucking phenomenal. So, like what makes Neil Peart a better frontman? All
right, I have to stop you. It's my duty as a complete dork. It's Neil Peart.
Neil Peart? Okay.
Anybody who sees this is going crazy right now that you're calling him Neil Peart. It's Peart.
Okay. Peart. Okay.
Because like as a drummer, he comes up with so many hooks and is so busy. My son's a drummer. He's actually a musician. He can play guitar and drums far better than I. He's not a good frontman though. But if he's playing drums in the other room with no music backing, I know when he's playing a Rush song, and it's based on the personality of Neil Peart.
So like the way his drumming sounds?
Yeah. Like he for me is the only drummer where you want to play air drums instead of air guitar.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So
But-
why do you guys consider yourselves not musicians, Jenkins?
Well, it's because we're not very good. A musician to me is someone who has mastered the craft. Like you asked, what my greatest musical skill is. I can figure out how to ape better musicians.
Dude, what better musicians? Ape them?
We can ape them. Yeah, we can make a reasonable facsimile and put our own dumb spin on it. But we're solidly average in every area except for the fun. So if you see us live, you'll love us. You might like us if you hear us recorded, if we could ever finish a recording. But we're not about. So my guitar player puts it perfect. You can see a talented band anytime, but it's hard to find a fun band.
Right.
And that's what we strive for. So we're more. We show up, and we're not afraid to be idiots, which is a big thing for being a frontman. I think we played almost a little over a year ago. We played in Dublin, Ireland, and we were walking around this club, and we wore scarves, and the guitar player wears chaps, and and spandex and everything else. And people were intrigued. And then as soon as I start, I don't stay on the stage. I go in to the crowd, in quotes, and bring them into the show. But it's never about, listen to this great, super original music. It's just, hey, here's music you like because it sounds like other music you like, but we're going to give you a good time as you listen to it.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you could say, though, that music is, like, at least in my experience, every time I've seen a band live, even if they don't play as well as they do on the album, it's always a better experience. Like even if I get seats that are way far away from the stage, it still is. Like when I got to see ACDC with my brother like a decade ago, it was in an outdoor stadium and it was coincidentally raining when they were playing Thunderstruck. That was still fucking amazing. But then also like when I saw Killswitch Engage, I was right close to the stage, and both times I saw Rise Against, I was like right up against the stage, and it was even better because like there was like people were jumping around and people get into the music more.
Yeah. Well, we've seen Iron Maiden a few times, and Bruce Dickinson.
Oh yeah, I saw them too. Yeah.
When he describes it perfect. He's playing for the people at the back of the arena. And again, that's to me what it's about. Like, and I guess you could say, so in the case of Iron Maiden, they're actually good musicians, and he's kind of the cherry on the top of the musical sundae. Right. Frontmen also say stupid things like musical Sunday.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they could definitely play.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say they could play, and I think Jenkins is onto something that I always find that if I see a band, because recording has gotten so good these days that there's a lot of like, I sound really good on album, but then when you go to see a band live, they sound horrible, right? Just because the way we can record music is just, we can make anybody, make Britney Spears sound like a Celine Dion, right? So you can do the same with bands. I think it's something if you can have that recording, but then you don't sound the same live, but you can still sound decent enough that it's the musicianship is there. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's all I got.
Have you ever seen Smash Mouth live?
No.
Have you?
It's really bad.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Maybe if it's bad music, it's even worse live. Although I don't mind listening to some of their songs every once in a while because they're catchy. That's it though.
You know who's surprisingly good live? Sugar Ray.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. They were a ska and punk band for a while before they kind of sold out. To me, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
huge
they were a
disappointment.
ska band. I didn't even know they were a ska band.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like punk and ska. If you listen to like their early albums and then you listen to like the hits, it's like
Yeah, you would recognize them.
you wouldn't recognize it. It's
Yeah.
completely
Oh
like,
wow!
Kinda
I've definitely
Kind of
only
like
heard it.
the Offspring when they
Yeah.
got mainstream.
or Goo Goo Dolls. If you listen to early Goo Goo Dolls, it's punk.
Oh yeah,
right?
man.
And
Yeah,
then you listen to the stuff now, it's like mother music or
yeah. I saw them. I
Other
saw them with
music.
like 100 people, in, like 1990, and they're not the same band.
no, it's not.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So like another good example. So like take the Ramones, right? Joey Ramone, the singer, didn't write the music. That was mostly CeCe Ramone, the bass player. CeCe Ramone left to do his own thing, and he's awful. Where Joey Ramone does a great job presenting someone else's material. So in my band, I write a huge amount of it. I won't say all of it because they might hear this and then they'll know that I'm claiming credit for everything that I actually do. But Frontmen also do that, by the way. But let's face it, I do everything. But Joey Ramone is doing stuff that he didn't even write, and he's doing it perfectly well. Where the person who wrote the music is terrible at presenting. He's playing bass, and that's a very rudimentary style, but it's to me a good example of like, whoa, okay, this guy communicates. Or like Sinatra, he didn't sing his own stuff, and people still revere him. I don't particularly, but
Yeah, or the Oasis. Noel wrote all the songs.
yeah.
Him sang them.
And geez, all that guy does is stand there, and I've seen them a couple of times. Stands there looking like he hates you,
Yeah,
but he does it so well.
they would be on my not a good front man list. Same with you know who was horrible? Stone Temple Pilots. I saw them live, and Scott
Really?
Weiland was.
Oh really?
Yeah, he was drunk and like he was high as a
okay.
kite, but because I live in a smaller town between Toronto and Detroit, so they were our stop was like the fuck we got to play here tonight kind of stop, right? So, and we get that a lot in my town, so I've seen a lot of horrible acts, but yeah, Stone Temple Pilots was on my list of bad.
So how do we book a show in your town?
yeah. Well, now you can't book it. There's
That
nothing.
sounds right up our alley for when this is all over.
Yeah, no, definitely.
A small town with no options. Perfect.
If there's any, we've lost like 5 places to play live, like 5 bars.
Oh, that stinks.
Just because.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Like how a band is affected by who writes the music and how you can get bands breaking up over who has the right to do what and that sort of shit. Like I remember I've been watching a podcast series that Greg Sadler does, who's actually a philosopher and does mostly like these really academic videos about philosophy that I watch. He's also done a series of podcasts with his friend who's a musician. And one of the points and they've been doing a series on like classic metal mostly, and they were talking about that, but you can talk about this in any genre of music, really, about how there are bands whose lineups change a lot sometimes, some even to the point where they don't even have any of the original members, yet they're still called the same band. Like,
Yeah.
what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's the Eagles for me. The Eagles, obviously they played together forever, but they hate each other now. My parents saw them live, and they literally show up in 5 different tour buses, get on stage, play their set, and then they leave in 5 different tour buses, and they don't talk to each other. They're literally just there as a band to make money for themselves, and then there's no kind of like apparently the friendships are all gone between them, and there's a lot of,
Which is crazy, right? Like you guys, like how does that work? You're doing the most fun thing, and you've turned it into something where you're at the point where you hate each other and you're just doing it for money.
yeah.
We've made maybe $800 in 20 years, but we would not stop doing it. You know, we'll do it until the guitar player dies. Nason.
Yeah, there was but with the Eagles, they had so
totally
many
get it.
songwriters there, right? There was like literally like 3 or 4 songwriters probably knocking heads all the time as to what they wanted to do with the band, right? So, and different guys coming
Well, I guess to them it's like a job now. It's it's not like it's like they're just going to work.
Oh,
Yeah.
but it's such a fun job.
Yeah. That'd be terrible
Yeah,
for artistic expression to turn into a job.
Well, that's what we have a song, Some Kind of Whiner, because the worst thing Metallica could have ever done was that movie, Some Kind of Monster. It's like all you guys do is sit, like, you may have been, one of the lyrics is, you may have been cool 30 years ago, then made that movie where everyone knows that you're just some kind of whiners. They were the whiniest group of spoiled older men who are making millions. They're making so much. They gave Rob Trujillo $1 million just to come on board as a bass player, and they're still finding a reason to be miserable.
Yeah,
they lost a lot of respect with me over the Napster thing.
That too, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just like, for me, that I agree with you guys, but also, like, I'm a little less into Metallica than I used to be. Like, I was a diehard fan and loved all of their music, even the newer stuff, when I was a teenager. But the older I get, the more I think that, I kind of think that Metallica's first 4 albums are by far the best. I could kind of take or leave the rest of them, to be honest. Like Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. Those are all 4 with the original bassist, of course, Cliff Burton, too, are definitely my favorite Metallica albums.
Yeah, band like Metallica, you can only do so much with. It's just hard rock. Like, if they were to come out with a country and album, although I give them credit a little bit because they did do that album where it was live and they played with an orchestra and stuff like that, and that was a really cool album.
That was cool. S&M.
So, but when Metallica needs to do stuff like that, which they don't do, they're just going to go to what they know their fan base wants, which is hard rock riffs, easy to jump into anthems while you're drinking a beer, right? They're not going to come up with electronic beats and stuff like that because it might backfire them, like Smashing Pumpkins or something like that.
Yeah. Did you guys know? I bet you probably did know this, that Metallica originally wanted to call themselves Alcoholica, or that actually I think that might have been a nickname from early fans, and they wanted to call their first album, instead of Kill 'Em All, they wanted to call it Metal Up Your Ass. I actually have a T-shirt that I got when I got to see them in concert. It has a picture of what they wanted to put for their original picture for Kill 'Em All. When they wanted it to be called Metal Up Your Ass, they wanted it to have a picture of a toilet with a sword coming out of it.
Yep. And from there, they became people that needed a counselor to be in the recording studio.
Yeah, exactly.
I was studied with Dave Mustaine.
Oh, yeah. Do you guys like Megadeth? I like some of their music.
Countdown to Extinction is like an amazing album. It is. And it's like one of those albums I can listen to from, I think there's only 10 tracks on it too. Euthanasia was okay. It had a few good singles on it, but yeah, Countdown to Extinction, you can go right through.
Yeah.
And I think that Metallica would have been better if Mustaine was around, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't he have a lot to do with Master of Puppets in the earlier material?
Did he? I didn't know.
Well, Kill 'Em All.
Is that Mustaine?
Yeah, he was out before they recorded it though.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
But see, that to me is, there's a difference. So I saw Megadeth and I saw Metallica, and Dave Mustaine's a frontman. Mm-hmm. Like, he's got a charisma. Metallica doesn't really have somebody with that charisma. Dave Mustaine's a maniac, but he's also captivating to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'd agree. I've never seen either of those bands live, but I've seen just, music videos. And...
Oh, when I saw Metallica, it was like a dream come true for me, because I was like, I think I was fresh out of high school, so they had been my favorite band for a long time, and it was one of the best trips of my entire life, because we turned it into a road trip. We drove to see them in Vancouver, and we went to see Metallica, and I don't remember exactly the order in which these events happened, but it's something like we went to see Metallica live, and they played all of our favorite songs, and it was amazing. and then I had just started smoking weed, so we smoked a joint between like 3 of us, and it got me fucking barbecued to the point when I remember going to get food and could barely figure out how my debit card works. and then the next day we went skydiving, which is the only time I've jumped out of a plane, and it was fucking amazing and probably the best time of my entire life. And then I think it was maybe the next day or maybe the day before we saw Metallica, we also went cliff jumping. We went to this place that had this 20-foot cliff that you could jump off of into water. And then there was a 60-foot cliff that you had to walk around a whole bunch of rocks on a stream to get to it. And then I think 4 of us went there, and then we all looked down, and then 2 of us pussied out, but 2 of them jumped anyway. And my one friend who went, he landed in the water with his arms out like this, and he had massive bruises on his arms for like 3 days after that.
Yeah.
So part of it is like that it's like it's such a huge memory in my life, right?
So you went to see Metallica, and then you spent all the other time doing stuff that you could use Metallica as a soundtrack to.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So, Dusty, you just got kicked out there like 3 times. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. So, we should talk about our favorite bands. Actually, I just thought I would say, I probably have a bunch of bands that I would say are my favorite today. Like depending on how you classify them. Like I said, like Metallica's first 4 albums I love, but there's some rap albums that I love. And definitely in the past few years or so, I was into them before, but over the past few years, I've gotten a lot more into Tool too. I just love all of their songs, and if I had to pick one, I would say probably Tool is my favorite band now. So, what are your guys' favorite bands?
That's funny because Tool, before I joined the band I'm in, Frenzy of Tongs is the band name, by the way, for all the millions of people. So they used to be called Shrapnel, and they used to play Tool songs. And the drummer and the original guitar player, we were surfing, and they're like, "Man, I never really listened to Tool lyrics until we started playing it, and man, they have some crazy lyrics." Like, yeah, it's like look at their band logo, kind of tells you that they're a little edgy for that stuff. I'm not sure what my favorite band would be. So someone else could go first. My favorite all-time band, I guess, would be the Kinks, but
okay.
Yeah, my favorite bands right now, I would probably say them, and you guys never even heard of them. So I'm one of these guys that I like. I don't mind Tool, I don't mind Metallica, but like my days of listening to them have long passed. I don't, I'll go back and do my '90s nostalgic alternative rock from time to time, but maybe it's because I'm a dad now, but I'm a softie in my old age. So I really like Elliott Smith. He was one of my favorites right now, and I like a Canadian band named Sloan.
Oh yeah, they're good.
I like them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like Real Estate. He was another kind of softy band, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it changes. I go through phases where I'm like listening to hip hop and Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist and the guy that just passed away. I forget his name right now. ASAP Rock, and like I'll go through hip hop too. But same thing with my hip hop. I don't like Biggie and Tupac and all those guys and are great. But yeah, I only dip into those guys when I go kind of into nostalgic. I don't listen to any top 40 at all. If you were to tell me the top 40, if you were to list off the 10 top most famous rock bands right now, I'd be like, who the fuck are these guys? Unless it's like a Foo Fighters single in there or whatever. Top 40 for me is just.
Yeah, I don't even know if there are any rock bands top 40.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
And it would be classified as like, what's that band? Man, I'm horrible with bands tonight. Jesus. Anyway.
Okay.
Look it up.
So,
now.
like, What are
Leon? That would be a band that I know and like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. With what you said there, I mean, I noticed this too. Like the older I've gotten, and the more relaxed I've gotten, and less angry about everything. The less I've been into metal. I think I used to be like a fucking massive metalhead again, like when I was in high school. But then, like, I guess as I gradually became a less angry person and got less into alcohol and stopped competing in powerlifting and got into weed instead. I guess I still like metal, but I don't listen to it anywhere near as often as I used to. So yeah, I get that too.
So I've always been straight edge, so that never entered into it, but I was super angry. So there was a time where even like Maiden or Black Sabbath were like, whatever, that's poser music. And it would just be thrash every day. They're like, and every once in a while, like Chris said, like I'll listen to Anthrax, like oh, this is good, but that's about it. Not like, but now I have two sons, and they absolutely will not. It's the opposite for me, Chris. They will not let me listen to anything soft. Like I've tried. Foxy Shazam is the softest they will listen to, or are like the Aquabats, but anything else, like what is this? I one time, just as a prank, played Air Supply. We got to the top of the block. My son, who was I think 3 at the time, was furious in the back seat at me. So I still have to listen to all hard rock at the very least.
Okay.
I guess the most modern, the one that's still going, I'd have to say The Darkness, or there's a fantastic band with another fantastic frontman called The Wild Hearts out of the UK. They're not that well known, but they're very solid and great live performance. And their music is it's hard, but it also has a bit of complexity in it. So they'll throw in some time changes. It's not quite like Rush, but it's also not the Ramones.
Okay. When we're done talking, by the way, would you guys mind all messaging me like some of the bands that you mentioned in here so I can add them to the description of the video?
Sure, I'll send you my band. Actually, I think that would be better. We should have all of our music on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I'll send you my quotations music too. Sure.
Okay. I think I might have heard a little bit of yours.
Yeah. And yet you still refer to me as a musician. Young Andrew.
So, Dusty, you said your internet's better there now?
Yeah, back on stable internet.
Okay. So, what is your answer to the question, what is your favorite band? And we've also been talking about how music tastes can change.
Yeah, I have very eclectic musical tastes. But, oh man, who's my favorite band? I can't even think of a favorite, to be honest. Like, the only thing I could really think of is just which shows have I been that I enjoyed, and some of them are like super mundane.
You could say like top 5 favorite or something like that too.
Well, I know Prince is gonna have to be up there. Even though he's not really a band, he's just a one-man wrecking crew in whatever he does. I like when I was like super rebellious in college, I did like Rage Against the Machine quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I like them.
I also liked what did I like? Just like really stupid stuff when I was a kid, because I really don't listen to much rock anymore. And the only thing I could think of is like the stuff that I was listening to when I was a kid, or like in college, which would be like Slipknot, Offspring, and some other crazy shit. But
oh yeah, I definitely listen to those a lot too. I still listen to, that's like, those are everyone, those are songs, both of those bands, Slipknot and Offspring, like every once in a while I'm like, I feel like listening to the most fucking badass metal ever, so I'm gonna listen to this Slipknot anthem. Or I'm like, I'm feeling pretty nostalgic, I want to listen to like the Offspring original Prankster or something like that.
Yeah, or even something stupid like Korn.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't really name one because my musical tastes are so eclectic.
What do you listen to today? Like, what are some of the genres that you listen to?
Well, I listen to a lot of jungle and drum and bass.
What's jungle?
It's an electronic music genre.
Okay.
I guess there's some notable live acts, and when I say live act, where there's an actual band playing. So, and a lot of them are from the United Kingdom. So Roni Size has a good live act. He'll have like 4 people on synthesizers, an actual bassist, and a dude playing the drums, a vocalist, and MC. So it's usually like a 7-piece band. And that's very unique for drum and bass because drum and bass is just people making music on their computers usually. So I'm just trying to think, like Orbital. I have fucking eclectic tastes, man. Like Orbital, I don't even know if you know who Orbital is. It's like
I haven't heard of any.
school.
I haven't heard of any of these guys. Have you heard of these guys, Jenkins and Chris?
I know Orbital. Orbital's been around for a while.
Okay.
That would sound familiar, but I'd have to hear a song in order to be like, oh, okay, that's them.
Well, okay, so their most probably mainstream songs are the intro to the movie Hackers and the outro to the movie Mortal Kombat. It's the same song.
Oh, okay. I definitely remember those, especially the latter, because I loved the Mortal Kombat movies and games when I was a kid.
But yeah, they were big UK people. Like, yeah, there was a time where I was going to like a drum and bass show like once every 2 weeks. So like most of the major players in that scene I've seen live. And they're very usually intimate shows. Like we're not talking about like arenas. It's such an obscure and niche genre of music that you're not going to see. Like the biggest show I ever went that was a drum and bass show was like Coachella 2002. And they had Roni Size and Diesel Boy was there, like AK 1200 and Photech. These are like super obscure names. So even at that show, this is like Coachella's like earliest incarnations when it was actually good. Now it's just shit. But back then, they had 9 Inch Nails was there, the Chemical Brothers, Aphex Twin. Like these are all really old schoolish like electronica bands.
Oh yeah, I've heard 9 Inch Nails and the Chemical Brothers, of course.
Yeah, so we're talking like the very early 2000s where electronica was really making a surge. I think those were like my favorite times of being a concert goer. Those were very, very fun times. But you're at Coachella, so of course it's crazy, But this is when Coachella was just like a 1-day event. It wasn't like this dragged out like weekend 3-day event. It was just like, okay, you really, really had to plan out really well who you wanted to see, because there would be really big acts on simultaneously on different stages. So yeah, those like the first Coachella I went to was super fun, but it was way before it got super commercial. So at that point, it was like an electronica and rock festival, so it wasn't like you didn't see any pop people there at all.
Oh, okay. So was there? This is what I was just wondering about. Were there less like psychedelics and partying sort of things around there?
Yeah, you saw people like smoking weed in the audience and stuff, but
That happens in like every concert.
yeah, and it wasn't really enforced there because it's just like this huge campground with a bunch of stages and whatnot. But when it started getting mainstream, I just didn't go to them anymore because it's just like, oh, it's just a bunch of pop artists now are flooding are headlining at most of these things. So it's just like, eh. Because when I went, Roni Size was a headliner. Chemical Brothers were a headliner. Aphex Twin was a headliner. I think Weezer was there. Paul Oakenfold, he was like a huge. He was a huge electronica DJ at the time. So yeah, those were. I didn't really have like a favorite. I have like favorite moments and favorite events that I've been to. But I can't think of like a super favorite like band or something.
So is that Coachella like one of the favorite events that you've been to? And like,
yeah, that was like the first Coachella I went to was probably my favorite music event that I've ever been to because I just saw so many of the bands and acts that I love, and it was before it was like a mainstream thing where you just saw a bunch of like rich people and walking around with martinis and whatnot.
Seriously?
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if you're going to host a 3-day event, like it's not like the average person can set that much time aside and money aside to attend something like that. So that's why it started getting a little, hoity-toity. And when they started having like mainstream pop artists that they probably spent like millions of dollars to play there. Like the people that we were listening to and watching there, they weren't super mainstream. They're just like the kind of the underground electronic scene at the time. And like the biggest name there was Weezer. I was like, oh, Weezer. And they weren't even playing at the top, they weren't the last act. They were like, I don't know, like 5 in the afternoon. And I think the last act were the Chemical Brothers.
Oh, okay.
So what would that be, like 93 or 94?
No, this was like in 2001 or 2.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know Aphex Twin was still doing stuff at that point.
Yeah, he was still doing stuff at that point. But yeah, it was great. That was probably like the best show I've ever seen in my life because there's just so much to see and watch, and so it was just way too much fun. But I can't imagine me going to any musical festival these days and being able to get into it that much because nowadays it's just it's like super commercialized to a point where it's just like, this is just an event to make money. Really, it's not really it's not really a hardcore underground thing because they had underground hip hop there too. It wasn't a mainstream event at that point. And I guess it just got commercialized to such an extent that, you're seeing people who are on top 40. Like I think the only top 40 person there that I could think of was Weezer. And everybody else was like underground, like music. Well, yeah, Chemical Brothers isn't super mainstream, but among electronica fans it would be, but it wasn't mainstream top 40, you know what I mean?
So now it's kind of like a Comic-Con, but with music?
Yeah, to an extent, I would say. Yeah, to
It's
an
where all the
extent.
buzz bands, Coachella, or if you're something, it's where all the buzz bands usually go to play every year. And you're right, it's definitely become commercialized. A lot of that festival stuff has become. I was just checking up the last commercial event or festival we had here, and it had TLC, Nelly, Aqua, Arrested Development,
Holy shit!
2 Live Crew, and Ace of Base, right? And this was
all
in 20,
90s.
Yeah.
So that's like old millennial festival.
Yeah, but those circuits are
Yeah, yeah.
Those circuits are popular though. Like they'll get the bunch of one-hit wonders pretty much together, and they put them all on a festival, and
It's like, hey, I can go back to 1998.
yeah, but it sells out every year. Every year we run these kind of silly like festivals. They're always like packed because people, they like, oh, I loved Nelly back then. I used to
those are like state fair acts.
Yeah, that's what it. Well, and yeah, going back to what Coachella has kind of become, it's more of that.
Because when I went, it was like cutting edge, like the underground music of the time. Because in early 2000s, you had kind of like the big rave scene, and then you had like an underground hip hop scene as well. And I guess they wanted to get people in with Weezer, what kind of demographic they were trying to get with that. And they had a couple other bands, but they weren't like big bands. They were these little no-name bands, but it was current stuff.
Those used to be the best festivals. Like I remember going to Vans Warped Tour a bunch of times, and yeah, you would go there to see like NoFX or whatever the headliner was, but you'd also learn about 10 other bands that played before them. And those days are unfortunately gone, right? They just book whoever's kind of selling, and
they book to get people in the seats now, not to like present new stuff.
That's right.
And that's kind of how I see all of those festivals. Sure. Because I learned about a bunch of different electronic artists I didn't know about, and it was just fun. And because of the music itself, you didn't see like a bunch of old fogies around. I'm guessing at these like 80s, these late 90s acts, you're seeing like a bunch of like 40-year-olds like walking around with beers in their hands, I'm guessing. At Coachella, it was a very young audience. When I went, at least.
There are still, so in punk rock, there's still a lot of good festivals. Like there's out Chicago way or Illinois somewhere, there's Riot Fest. Then there's Rebellion Fest in England, and there's one in Iceland, Norden Punk or something like that. And coincidentally, it is a lot of old folks walking around at these things, but they're a bunch of bands that, there might be a Circle Jerks or I can't think of another band that anybody may have heard of, but there may be a couple of, or maybe Cockspur will play it or whatever, but then there'll be 50 or 100 other bands that nobody knows. And those are always the most fun.
Yeah, at least they have like a genre focus. Like, I think the current Coachella is just a kitchen sink.
Yeah.
When I went, it was focused. Like they had the electronica stage, they had the rock stage, and then like they have like the offshoot stage of usually were no-name acts and like DJs and stuff. So there were only 3 stages back then when I went, and then there was like a drum and bass tent where I spent a lot of time in. So, right, it's like a kitchen sink type of deal now where they're just trying to get everybody, and there's no real, they can't really brand the event, right? It's just music festival with whoever. I remember when I went to Coachella, it was all about, like mostly, since rave scene was huge then, it was actually branded as an electronica type of festival. So I don't know. It just turned into something else.
Yeah, it turned into multiple weekends, but they're relying on you to be like, since they've cross-genred so many people that they have at Coachella now, they're hoping that they're going after that person that loves Weezer and like, oh shoot, Weezer's playing Coachella, I'm going to go just for that, right? And then I'll check out all these other bands after that. So if they get everybody in every genre instead of just metal or just hip hop, then they're hoping that will increase their number of ticket sales.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't become kind of the place to be,
Coachella,
rather than because to me, I didn't even know that it ever was cool, because it just, I've only really been aware of it for the past couple of years, where it just seems the place for celebrities to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there
think
were
it
no
became that.
celebrities back then. It
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
like extreme enthusiasts for,
Yeah.
because like I said, it was a half electronica and then half bands.
Yeah, but
So
Lollapalooza does the same thing now in Chicago, where it used to be just rock and alternative acts, and now it's, you can see hip hop and every kind of genre there. And I think I don't know if Lollapalooza, it's probably been a while since they've been on, I think, but I think they did like multiple weekends at one point too, just like Coachella.
Yeah, I didn't even know that I've only heard of Coachella in terms of like people I know who love to party, to just go to concerts to party and do drugs and shit.
Well, they've had some interesting, like Flaming Lips did a set there, and Tame Impala did a closing set there at Coachella. So they do have some decent acts that roll in. But yeah, you're right, and it's become more commercialized. But I would argue that every kind of festival has become kind of more commercialized. These festivals have grown into, now you can get the Virgin tent that you go and get your beer in and all that kind of stuff, where all that stuff didn't exist before, right? So
yeah, none of that was around back then.
yeah.
So
there was never this like, hey, it's $60 for 3 days, and then you pay $80 and you can get closer to the thing, or you pay $100 and then you get your own kind of booth and blah, blah, blah. None of that ever existed before. And
yeah, there were no VIP anythings when I went. Like if you force yourself to the front, you're in the front. There are no seats.
Yeah.
Like you're just standing around wherever you want. So like when Roni Size was playing, I was like right up there in the front. I was like super ecstatic.
Then you have to force your way to the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was freaking badass. Like, I don't know. It's just nothing really today compares. Like I'll see. I won't go to music festivals anymore. But if I see somebody small, I like to see it in a more like intimate setting, where it's kind of like a smallish, like 200 to 400 people maybe. But I kind of avoid like the huge concerts now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unless I can play a music festival, I don't want to go to a music festival.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'd rather see that indie band in a basement for $10 locally versus going to a festival or driving to Toronto and paying $300. And yeah,
because I think back then, I think it was like $60 for one day, which isn't bad in 2002 money or 2001 money.
I've paid more than that for probably every concert I've been to, because I've only seen like more major bands, like some of the ones that I've mentioned, like Metallica and Iron Maiden, and I don't know, I guess some of the smallest bands that I've seen are the only ones where there wasn't like a VIP area where the front where you had to pay extra to have floor seats. There was this little place in Edmonton where I used to, when I was really into metal, where I used to see a lot of metal bands. Like I saw, like I mentioned, I saw Killswitch Engage there, and I saw like In Flames and a bunch of other metal bands like that there. That's probably like the smaller places that I went to, but I'm pretty sure the tickets were still like maybe $100 or so.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, I believe Rob Zombie was also at that festival.
Oh yeah, I saw him live once too.
Yeah, but this was like in 2001 or 2, so he was still like relevant. I believe Papa Roach was also there. They were still relevant at the time.
Oh, okay.
So
the lead singer didn't get all skinny and get neck tattoos.
So yeah, there were a lot of bands like that there that were relevant. They weren't like super huge, but they're kind of relevant at the time. So yeah, it was fun, man. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I can remember I went to SARS Stock when that was a thing in Toronto. And
SARS Stock?
Yeah, it was in 2003. It was one of the biggest concerts at Toronto, and the tickets were free. And
wow.
yeah, the lineup is insane. I was just looking at it, and it was crazy that day too. So like Rolling Stones played, Justin Timberlake, The Guess Who, Flaming Lips, Rush was there, Isley Brothers, AC/DC. And those are just like the top acts.
Oh, that's pretty crazy. And it was
Yeah.
free?
And it was free because SARS had just happened at the
Wow.
time, and they were trying to raise money. It had hit
Oh.
Canada.
How do you
And-
raise money with a free concert?
I think just like buying merch and
Beer.
beer, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But during that pandemic, instead of socially distancing, a million of us got together in a broken down or an old like airport runway or whatever.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. When do you guys think like concerts and stuff like that are going to be able to happen again?
Maybe 2022, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't think
not
it's
even this year?
I doubt it.
Oh man.
There's shows
Yeah.
going on, but it like a full like concert where you're like Massey Hall to see Wilco and 100 people are there. Like those days, yeah, it'll be 2022 before that actually.
Yeah, because we gotta worry about those other stupid strains. You know, it's gonna be a while.
Well, not just that. Ticketmaster was talking about you had to get vaccinated even before buying a ticket at some point, right? So
Oh, really?
they might even go that route where you have to have a vaccine before you even see a big concert, right? Like, so if you want to see Justin Bieber or something like that, you would have to show your proof of vaccine.
Mm.
I'm okay with not seeing Justin Bieber.
Well, after you've seen him 30 times, what are you going to do with the 31st?
Yeah.
He just does the same moves every show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be till probably this time next year. Maybe it'll start.
Yeah, and it's going to be a slow, gradual. I think people are going to have to. You're going to have to see people see that other shows are going on and people are in attendance first, and then people are going to have. There's going to be a comfort level that people are going to have to cross in order for them to feel comfortable going in a group of people again. And that goes for anything, comedy or baseball games or football or whatever. I think it's going to be a while until we see full stadiums again of anything, which is sad, but
Yeah.
Oh, it's because it's so much
a-
fun.
Yeah. McEldoon said he thinks masks are here to stay for a long time. That might be true, unfortunately.
I have a question
masks.
for you all.
What's that?
double mask.
Oh God.
Which band have you seen live in person the most?
Oh. I guess there are like a few that I've seen twice, but that's I don't think I've ever seen anyone more than twice. I know there are probably a few more, but the only ones I can think of that I've seen twice are Iron Maiden and Rise Against.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a bunch of local bands, but I guess I've seen The Darkness 6 times, and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones back in the day, I probably saw over a dozen times.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen Sloan like 50 times, but they've been around for
Holy crap.
yeah, they've been around for 20 years. And there was a point where I was young and I would, because like I said, I live in London, which is like in between Detroit and Toronto. So with a lot of concerts, I can actually, if I, in my younger days, I could see somebody in Detroit, then I could see him in my hometown and then I could catch him in Toronto. So a lot of the times I would catch bands that were coming through this area, 3 times if I really wanted to. But like Tragically Hip, I've seen a bunch of times too. And yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
And they're a Canadian band.
Yeah, like Tragically Hip, it was like if there was a summer festival going on in my hometown, it was like Tragically Hip was playing there every summer, and you would just go because they were playing, right? So I happened to see them probably 10 times just because they were playing here every summer.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Well, with me, it's oddly a tie between a Stray Cats and 311. And the reason it's 311 is because
It was free.
well, some of those were free.
You were down.
Yeah, some of those were free, and then a lot of like our group of friends, it was like the most milquetoast band we can get everybody to go to, besides like Dave Matthews Band, which is like a second, would be my second place most times seen. But yeah, it ended up being like the milquetoast bands that we can get like a bunch of people to show up at.
Okay.
Except for Stray Cats, because I would just go on my own for those.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, 311.
Yeah, for me, it really is economics and availability played into it a lot. So it's a ton of local bands that I'll be friends with, and I'll go see them whenever they play.
Oh
'Cause I
yeah,
can
I've probably
afford
seen local
$5 to
bands
$10.
far more than those, but you'd be like, who the hell's that?
Right.
So I'm not even gonna mention it. I don't even know if they play anymore. So
I would love
'cause
to
it's
see
so
other ones
spec-
all the time,
Yeah.
but at $100 a pop for a couple of people, it's not feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty expensive.
That's part of why I haven't gone to see bands live in a while, because I'm poor.
Yeah. Well, the actual act that I've seen the most, because it's not really a band, would be Diesel Boy. He's a DJ, but he's a
Oh,
drum
okay.
and bass DJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think then, Dusty, like in terms of electronic music, well, not just electronic music, but like DJing and even creating beats in hip hop and rap, like this opinion that I've heard before, that it's gotten worse now that you can do like electronic, just like mix everything electronically rather than like having to actually scratch records and stuff like that?
Well, it depends, because sometimes I always found that mixing like physical records was easier than using a CD deck, because I've had both vinyl decks and CD decks. There's a lot of bells and whistles on CD decks, but like vinyl, you can just have that analog touch where you can slow a record with your finger to get them to beat match. And when you're using like digital methods, you're just like twisting knobs and trying to find an analog to that simple method of just using your finger to slow the record a notch so that you can get those beats to match up. So it depends. I prefer vinyl, but the problem with vinyl is you have to have the vinyl, and it's pretty cumbersome to lug that stuff around. But yeah, yeah. I know what you mean by that, but I prefer the old school methods.
To me, because like I'm not an expert at all on any of this stuff, it doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. Oh
Yeah, it's
picked up
like listening to it won't make much of a difference, but if you're the one doing it, I just prefer vinyl. And I think most of the bigger DJs also use vinyl, because it becomes if it's a performance, and there are a lot of DJs that turn their acts into like semi performances. A lot of those that do so will still stick to vinyl, you know. And it's not for scratching, because you could digitally scratch records. I had a CD deck that had like a little turntable on it, and you can actually scratch a CD. But yeah, you'll see some, because there's just regular DJs, and then there's like turntablists who just that's all they do is just scratch records and make beats. Like 90% of the time, they're just scratching it up, or they're just the dudes that are mixing songs together, and they scratch occasionally or add effects and little interludes into their songs. But yeah, that's turntablism is a whole different thing. That's like, it's the difference between someone who's a virtuoso at violin versus someone who just knows some chords on a guitar, you know.
Right. What do you guys think about this question, Chris and Jenkins?
Like electronic music, I don't really, unless it's like a full band, I won't go to see electronic or music. I had my rave days, and those are over. But yeah, electronic music is tough. It doesn't really tour that live unless you're a big name act. But I wouldn't. I'd much see a band over I'd see hip hop artists over electronic artists too. And I love electronic music. I got tons of, you name it, Daft Punk, and I got Chemical Brothers albums. I got all that kind of stuff, but it's not my genre. I would prefer to see live unless I was, high on pills or something like that.
well, it's drum and bass is different. It's not really, you don't really need drugs to enjoy it. It's, I don't know how to explain it. Like, you could just like get lit on a couple beers and just enjoy it. Because the thing about drum and bass is that it's typically the BPMs are twice that as hip hop. So what that means is that there will be an MC, and what an MC is a guy who raps over the drum and bass.
Yeah.
So
there's gonna be a rapper regardless then?
Most drum and bass shows will have some type of rapper there.
Oh, okay.
Rapping over the beats and like freestyling. So it's like this weird meld of hip hop and electronica. I like if I were to say, if you were to look at it in a live performance way, just go to YouTube and look up Roni Size, and that's RONISIZE. And it's like a dude rapping. It's a bunch of people playing synthesizers. It's a guy on the bass, a guy on the drums, a guy on turntables. And it's basically a melding of electronica with the rap element layered on top of it.
Okay. Interesting.
It's like,
But what they rap, they don't rap about stupid shit though. Like, you know what I mean? It's
not like newer hip hop, like, bro, I'm so rich, I get my dick sucked so much.
No, it's nothing like that.
was that the hip hop version of the prosperity gospel that the
Yeah.
mega churches do?
No, they're just it's not, because I don't consider, like, the lyrics themselves are usually about, the crowd, the music, hyping people up. It's not about, some rocks I slanged over the weekend and running from the cops or bitches I fucked. That's not part of. I've never been to a drum and bass show where they're rapping about that, and if they did, they'd probably get booed off the stage.
Oh, okay.
So have you ever heard of Sleaford Mods?
I haven't.
Or Dizzy Rascal? I'm just trying to get a beat
Dizzy Rascal's amazing, man. A UK rapper. He's got.
Yeah, is that drum and bass?
I don't know. I'd have to listen to it. Drum and bass is trying to think of like a mainstream sound. Like it's. Do you know what an amen break is?
Not me.
It's like the biggest beat. It's like the most recognizable beat in hip hop.
Okay.
Basically, a drum and bass is twice the speed of hip hop. That's all you really need to know.
Okay.
It's also, dubstep is kind of a slow ass derivative. So dubstep is like almost half the speed of hip hop, but think of dubstep if it was sped up like almost twice speed. Like it has those crazy like bass lines, and like those crazy dubstep sounding bass lines, and then you have a faster speed of drums there.
Right.
Just can't think of any mainstream artists that you may have heard of. Like if you are playing a lot of like car racing games, most of the music there is like drum and bass.
Okay, I have a pretty good idea now.
If you played, like a lot of car racing games, they tend to use drum and bass as like the soundtrack because it's like a speedy electronica sound.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I'll send you guys a sample of this stuff. It's pretty. There's like so many different genres, like subgenres of drum and bass itself. I think there's like 30. So it varies pretty widely. I think it's actually the most diverse electronica genre in electronica.
Drum and bass?
There's a lot of offshoots, a lot of subgenres. It's like calling something rock. How many subgenres of rock are there? Like a ton. That's the same thing with drum and bass. There's a ton of subgenres under that.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, when you mentioned dubstep, it reminded me earlier. You mentioned Korn. Did you hear that Korn dubstep album?
No, I didn't know they made one.
Yeah, they made
Is
one a
dubstep?
few years ago. I liked it. They
Dubstep?
incorporated some dubstep artists like Skrillex and a bunch of other people like that.
Yeah, dubstep is actually a subgenre of drum and bass.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a subgenre of it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember when dubstep was coming around, I was like, what's with this slow ass drum and bass that people are playing? It's like, oh, it's dubstep. Like, oh, okay. But
Oh,
yeah, just think of Skrillex sped up twice, and that's drum and bass.
oh, okay. That sounds better than dubstep.
I think it's better. it's like the shows are crazier because it's, people. The other thing, like if you're speeding up hip hop, because it's typically 180 BPM is what you're listening to the stuff at. So the music's going pretty fast. So, dance floor is pretty wacky.
Okay. Cool. Chris and Jenkins, did you guys happen to hear that Korn dubstep album?
No, I'm not gonna lie, man. Korn and dubstep, that sounds like nails on a chalkboard. I would rather listen to Candace Owens' podcast than listen to
But you do listen to Candace Owens' podcast.
yeah, only with certain people that come on. But yeah, it would be that's torture to me. Not that like I didn't mind Korn back in the day. They had a few good singles, but the mix of like I don't know. I never got into. I don't know. It never like Linkin Park, for example, is another one where they tried to mix electronica and hard rock together. And yeah, there's a few good songs in there, but it's not a genre that we'll look back over time and be like, wow, Linkin Park really carried on for decades and decades. It was a fad, and then see you later. And I think something like I don't know, a Korn and a dubstep is not something that appeases me these days. Like it's we live in it's unfortunately attention economy. If I'm going to sit down and listen to a brand new album, it's got to be somebody that is either recommended to me as like mind-blowing, or it's like an artist that I've kind of already checked out and I don't know all about.
Oh, okay. Jenkins said this in the comments when we were talking about rap and drum and bass. I think it's really funny. Pretty sure that Bro I Got My Dick Sucked So Much is in the top 40 right now. Oh, that's funny.
That wasn't me, but that was it. That was
have you ever heard of? Okay, so there's this. I don't know. I might have one you may have heard of. Have you heard of a band called Pendulum?
No.
Okay. Well, they were super huge. Like, they went from like punk or rock to drum and bass, when they got like really super huge.
Yeah, I like I like particularly the earlier Linkin Park stuff, and I like a few of their albums in particular that are different, like Reanimation, which is remixes of their old songs, but they also have like a bunch of different guest artists on there. And I also like that Crash Course crossover album that they did with Jay-Z, but I don't really like their newer stuff. It got way too mainstream and poppy to me. But I also like Mike Shinoda's rap group that he made a few albums with called Fort Minor. I like that too, but like I said, I don't really like that much of their newer stuff.
Yeah, so for they're not. I have this thing where you have to go out and you have to like search for music that you want to listen to, right? So like the Ramones, for example, is somebody I'd be like every once in a while I'd be like, fuck, I gotta listen to the Ramones. I go put on the record, yada yada yada, right? Linkin Park would be a band for me that I would only listen to if it was like on in a restaurant and the song came on or something. It's not something I'm like, oh, I got to put on that Record Park album. It reminds me so much of my childhood. I might have listened to it a little bit when it was on the radio, but it's not something that, because I think music is also, at least for me, when you go back into different bands and genres in decades past, it's also a timestamp of where I was at that moment, right? So if I listen to Marilyn Manson or Korn or whatever, that takes me back to my early 20s when I was in that alternative rock, and I would love Nirvana and Silverchair and Red Hot Chili Peppers and all those kind of guys, right? And if I'm talking about hip hop, well, that was maybe a little bit later. so it's also it's a picture of like where I was listening to that music at the time of in my age, right? So yeah, so some of those bands stick out, and some of those bands are timeless. Like I think, like Beatles, Tom Petty, a lot of these bands will carry over time, but it's, some of these bands just show up as kind of fads, and then they go, away. Kind of, you wouldn't listen to Ace of Base again, right?
No.
Now I want to go. Now I want to listen to an Ace of Base song.
Yeah, I have an Ace of Base record, though. I'm not gonna lie. I have their album on vinyl, but it's like I will put it on just as like a joke once every 10 years. It's not something like, oh, I got to put on that record right now.
They got like 2 good songs.
Yeah.
Like Linkin Park to me, and Korn. I used to go to this boxing gym, and I loved going there, but that would always be on. I'd be like, oh, damn it! Like Linkin Park is, and I'd always be thinking, kind of like what you're saying, Chris. Like, you're gonna hate this in 5 years.
Yeah,
I hate it. I hate it right now. You're not gonna like this in 5 years. You might give it a listen. Like, oh, that was funny. I used to listen to this, but yeah, that's not my cup of tea musically.
No, and you're right. A lot of radio stations back in the day and Much Music, or sorry, MTV, they killed a lot of those bands. Like Matchbox 20 and like Counting Crows. I think those bands would still be alive today and kicking if the radio and they didn't just play, that stupid Santana song a million times. If those weren't overkilled, I think you could still go back and listen to them, but they were played so much in the day that it drove us nuts that we don't go back to those anymore.
And those are, so I'm a teacher. So those are the tunes that the teachers, no aspersions on teachers, but like, those are the ones that they start to rock out to.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Like, no, stop being such a teacher. Like, no, this is not Rockabilly.
Matchbox 20.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Oh, I love what's his name. He's gorgeous. And start badly playing air guitar too. Like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those normie bands, like Nickelback is another one where it's just it got so played.
Nickelback gets way too much hate. I mean, I'm not really a fan of them, but I liked one of their albums because it was like more dirty and funny. Like they had songs like Something in Your Mouth and I Want to Be a Rock Star. I don't mind those songs, but the rest of them are like, this is how you remind me.
That was pretty good. I'm never really a hater with any kind of band. Like, it's not like I hate like Nickelback or I hate, Matchbox 20 or, I might not, I just don't listen to them. They just don't do it for me anymore. Creatively
I've realized with age that it's not that I hate them; it's I hate having to listen to them.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, all right, it's not for me. When I was younger, I was like, "Oh my God, I hate this band," but it's become I don't want to hear it ever. I
try to keep an open mind though. I'm not dismissive of everything. Like I know Taylor Swift just dropped an album a couple of weeks ago that was really good, and
she has some good stuff. Yeah,
I'll give it a spin. I'm not like, oh, Taylor Swift, fuck her. You know what I mean? Like, I'll listen to it if there's a buzz around it and people are like, oh man, this is good, you should check it out. Then I'll check it out. Now, her new material is produced by guys from The National, who I'm also a fan of, so that makes a difference as well. But if Korn came out with a dubstep album and everybody was talking about it, it's like, man, you had to hear it. Yeah, sure, I'd give it a spin. It's just I can't picture myself putting it on every Sunday afternoon.
I liked it at the time when it came out. It might have been mostly because I was still competing in powerlifting then, and I mostly the music that I listened to was based on what will pump me up to lift heavy things. So some of those songs were good for that.
Yeah, Rage Against the Machine, like Dusty mentioned earlier, was good for working out, or just like when you get in those angry moods, like you just got dumped by your girlfriend, you needed to throw stuff around.
Yeah,
that's what Rage Against the Machine and Helmet and like Metallica, Megadeth, those were good bands to listen
John Bush era Anthrax.
Yeah,
it's really good to punch a bag to.
Yeah, for sure. Jenkins mentioned this band in the comments. I wonder if you guys have heard of him. He said he recently learned about a band called Ginger. Crazy voice. It's a little suspect on some tracks. Have you guys heard of them?
That's Mackle again.
Mackle.
Yeah, you keep referring to
yeah.
that guy as.
Sorry, dude. I don't know why I called Mackle.
Did you call him? You called him Jenkins?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
I called Mackle Jenkins.
Now, if Ginger is awesome, I'm happy to take credit for it. But just in case.
Never.
Have
Yeah,
you-
I have not heard of Ginger.
Okay.
there's so many bands these days; it's hard to keep up. I mean, yeah, there's so much music out there and so many genres that I try to keep my ear to the grind. But yeah, there's people always come up to me, "Hey, have you heard of this band?" I'm like, "No, I have no idea." So
Yeah, and then some of you'll come across like, "Oh, this is an awesome new band," but then you look when it came out, like, "Wait, this band came out in 1977."
yeah,
But because of the the internet, I now heard it.
yeah, like Mogwai just released a single, and I'm like, I've heard of Mogwai
Oh
for
yeah,
years, and it's
Yeah.
a killer single, and I'm looking forward to the album, but I never really dove into their catalog at all, and they've got like 12 albums out. I was like, and they've been around since the 90s. I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Wow.
What about Austrian Death Machine?
not familiar.
Never heard of them.
They make Arnold Schwarzenegger parody metal songs.
Oh, dude, you have to send me some of
Sold.
that. I want to listen to that.
Yeah, Get to the Choppa, I think, is their most famous one.
Oh, that'd be so.
And Cohagen, Let Them Have Some Air, is also very good.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, just search Austrian Death Machine on YouTube. You'll find all their stuff. It's great.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I always love those themed like bands that cover specific like material. I often find those entertaining.
Yeah, there's a great one. I cannot remember their name. And they do they're Canadian. They do H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's
Oh, interesting.
And they're good.
I know
Cool.
you're thinking of, it's like Gorn or something like that, or wow,
That's
what's the
got
name?
oak in the name.
Oh,
Oak
okay,
something.
Maybe we're thinking of different bands, but
It's like it's not like dark music. That's the funny part. It's kind of like helicopters, but about H.P. Lovecraft.
Interesting.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah,
Sorry, I can't think of the
them
name.
out too. Yeah. Oh, Mackle. I almost called Mackle Jenkins again. He said he'll tweet that band Ginger to me.
Should call him Jenkle Dune.
Yeah, Jenkle Dune. That's a funny name.
Does he call himself that because he likes Dune, or?
I don't know. Actually, I've never asked him that.
My favorite band is Toto.
Is it?
No.
Okay,
No.
I found it. This band's from Chilliwack. The Darkest of the Hillside Thickets.
okay.
That's
No,
quite a
which-
name for a band.
Shocking that I couldn't remember that name, but they're fun. Yeah, that's not a great name, but they're fun.
Okay.
I'll tweet that one.
Yeah, like I said, send me, message me like some of the bands that you've been mentioning, so I can add them to the description. Oh, Mackledune said this, that it's actually his real name. It's just mispronounced. Does that mean what's the correct pronunciation of your name then, Mackle?
Crackle Noon.
Yeah, that's
Mackle Dooney.
That's funny. That'd be funny to embrace the incorrect pronunciation. Like it reminds me of
Mikhail Dooney.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all Jenkins
Kyle.
is. Jenkins is. So, my name is Brian, but for some reason, some people I worked with started calling me Jenkins, which is just a mispronunciation of Jennings. And then I just became known as Jenkins. That's the dumbest nickname / stage name ever. Therefore, I want it.
Oh, is that why
That's
there's the B in it? Jenkins B, Jennings?
Yeah. Plus, I don't want a bunch of people from high school finding me in.
Right.
to reconnect. Now that they know I'm a famous rock star, you know.
Michael said his real name is Michael Dunn.
Oh, Michael
It's
Dune.
pronounced Dunn as Dune. Michael Dune sounds cooler anyway.
Yeah.
Michael Dune is good.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of how, like, when I was growing up, because my last name is, like, German and hard to pronounce. It's Meinzer. People always were mispronouncing it, so sometimes they called me by my last name, but they mispronounce it like Meinzer or Menzer.
Menzer's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get called by my last name. That's what everybody really calls me in real life, which is
James.
Niles, which is Niles, actually.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, like Niles from Frasier. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't see you as Niles from Frasier.
No, I'm definitely not Niles from Frasier, but yeah, that's my last name. So I just use Christopher James just because I'm like Jenkins. I want to avoid all those high school lovelies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
best rock frontman is David Hasselhoff.
We never mentioned, but another good guy that was a great frontman is Freddie Mercury.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for
He
sure.
was also in my list that I was thinking of people, and obviously, you know, the movie came out, and but yeah, you have another guy that was really good vocalist. He played some piano. Queen has got a number of great hits, and also along with Jenkins, and you know, being a really good showman.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah,
when he's got that whole stadium, for Live Aid, that
is a great performance.
Solid.
Yeah,
and you know, Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
he did play music, didn't he?
Didn't he do like a one-man
He's the greatest showman. The greatest showman.
I'd have to give him that then. And I, you know, the Joan Jett is another one. So I know showmen, and then there's a more modern one is I forget her name. She's an Emil in the Sniffers. They're out of Australia, and she is fantastic as a frontman.
A front woman.
Them either.
So are they making it a front person now? Gender neutral?
Yeah. Well, that's why I said frontman. I made a point to say frontman because I don't think she'd care. I think she's doesn't see. She actually sings on a Sleaford Mods tune, and she doesn't seem to care about that stuff very much.
Okay.
So
pretty hardcore.
You said David Lee Roth because he does karate or whatever?
I didn't say because he does karate, but that is definitely a selling point. Yeah, all that stuff. Man. Yep, you better believe it. My icon here is me attempting to be him.
To do karate on stage.
No, just jump around like an idiot.
Okay.
He knows how to do it.
Learn to do a butterfly kick, and you become the greatest frontman ever.
That's all. My guitar player, the guy in Chaps, and I. That's all we model ourselves on when we perform. Is that?
Was it Prince who did that like jump kick where he would land in the splits
in
or
a
something?
split?
Yeah.
While in high heels.
Yeah, fuck man.
Yeah,
and wearing leather. 90% of him was leather too.
Yeah.
Anybody
leather,
can do it in
like
spandex,
super flamboyant. You know, he loved his what are those damn things called? Those like aristocratic neck wraps.
Cravats.
Cravat, there you go. He's always wearing cravats and like super flamboyantly colored outfits. You know, almost wants to be super ambiguous about his sexuality, even though he was like a hardcore Jehovah's Witness.
That's something I came around to too, because there was a period in the time where I was only into thrash metal. I was like, you suck if you wear a stage outfit. Like this band, they wear jeans, or like Anthrax always wore skate shorts. You suck if you wear stage outfit. And now that I'm doing it, it's like, no, people come for a show.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put on a show. I'm gonna wear $15 worth of scarves, which is a lot of scarves. If you find
wacky stuff,
and put on the show, like because you know, Part of the reason I don't like that Linkin Park type music is it's moany and it's
the next time you play, wear a welder's apron and sleeves.
Go the Fat Mike route and wear a woman's dress, or like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, just go to Harbor Freight, buy like the welder's sleeves and apron, and then get like a super cheap welding mask.
Yeah, but even that is more expensive than a bunch of cheap dollar store scarves.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you can pull the Elvis thing. You dab the sweat off your brow, hand it to one of the 5 people in the crowd. Goes over big.
Wait, you get 5 people out to your shows? What's your secret?
That's why we're not, I wish the places would open up because we're not pushing any COVID capacity limits at all.
You gotta get a pair of rollerblades, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, rollerblades, get some battery powered like LED lights, like tailored into your clothing.
I have done that. I have a vest with LED lights tailored into my clothing.
Oh, that's cool.
I do not have the rollerblades.
You need a pinata, a local
You need
band.
rollerblades, man.
Rollerblades and a pinata.
Yeah, a local band we play with here, they always bring a pinata out before their show, and they have everybody in the audience hit it and grab shit, and then they start their set.
We used to, so we have a song about a Chinese buffet, all you can eat Chinese buffet, and we used to bring Chinese food to the shows, nice. and it was originally to hand out as the song opens with a bass line, and you hand it out to the crowd as a ritual, and that turned into them hurling the Chinese food at us.
Oh yeah.
And it really grew into a high point of the show, because if you get enough Chinese food thrown at you, the stage becomes like an ice rink with all the grease. So you can slide across it until finally we played in a place and the sound guy got so mad, and the back of one of our CDs is our guitar player with a push broom. Which we didn't make the mess. We brought the food, yes, but we didn't make the mess. And he's mopping up the stage. So we had to stop after that. But a pinata might be something to add.
Yeah.
We have a local band here called Snacks, and they are a punk band, and they bring out chips and bowls and everything like that. And everybody eats snacks while they play their thing. But they got banned from a bunch of local bars here because they made a complete fucking mess after, show. People would take popcorn and throw it at them and shit like that. But.
Well, we've got this buddy, and he owns the place, or he's got it down to an art. Yeah, it's a band called the Excrementals, and if it's his band, if it's his place, he makes the sound guy clean up afterwards. If it's not, he lets everybody know that it's going to be a horrible mess afterwards. So he'll bring rugs and he'll roll it up, and he has it down to a science. And we've done shows where you have to throw out your shoes afterwards because we adapted the Chinese food. So we'll bring a box of fortune cookies and throw those all over the place, along with various pool toys. And then his band will go on, and the guitar player and I will man leaf blowers with toilet paper, which will festoon the place. And now the singer, Ted, will stand up on a platform drinking beers and mostly flicking beer all over the place. So at the end of the night, what you have is this horrible just amalgamation of toilet paper and fortune cookies and beer, and your shoes become like cement afterwards. The bottom, and you can't break it off. I've lost a couple of good pairs of shoes after those shows.
Oh wow.
What the Excremental should do is get a fog machine and cut the fog machine juice with like some fart liquid. That really would go with the theme of their show there.
They would, yeah. Very high usage of fog machines when it's his place. Unfortunately, Rhode Island, we can't use them because they set off all the fire code stuff. But yeah, they have the drummer, instead of a throne, sits on a toilet. It's great. High art.
Yeah, they need to cut that with some fart liquid.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up.
Blast it out there.
That's
bring that up.
Because I know you could probably cut that liquid and it would still fog up. Because the fart juice is like really strong smelling.
Yeah, a couple of drops won't dilute it too much.
You guys have experimented with this before?
Well, I've
No, but
taken a fart
going to.
spray to Six Flags and just tore the place up with it. Like, I was such an asshole. I went into all the bathrooms and just bombarded it. As I'm leaving a roller coaster cart, I just like blast the seat with it. I just was spraying it everywhere, and there were certain rides that were like in enclosed areas where you're waiting in line. So I just like blasted out, and everyone's just looking around trying to find who took a shit. That's what it smelled like.
See, this tells you the level of my aspirations, artistic aspirations. That is the best thing, and I
why
totally want to do that.
You want to do it?
Oh,
why pool toys? Is that just to like entertain the crowd or what?
well, pool toys they're soft, so you can throw them. We used to have we'd have like glow sticks, but those hurt.
Yeah,
like they fly.
You hit somebody pretty.
Oh, yeah, and they're throwing them at us, so I care. And the pool toys you can blow up. They're not going to hurt anybody, and they're fun. So at one show we brought a box of I forget how many ping pong balls. So it's really fun to have projectiles thrown at you, and we figured as long as nothing's getting covered in food and destroyed, then that's okay.
Oh, the ping pong ball thing randomly reminded me on that Metallica road trip that I mentioned. We were camping for it, and we wanted to play beer pong, so we went to a store to look for ping pong balls, and we asked one of the people there at the store, "Do you guys have ping pong balls?" Because we couldn't find them, and they said no. And then my friend who was standing right next to me said, "What about beer pong balls? Do you have those?"
Oh yeah, we have those.
Yeah, not ping pong balls though. Oh, I was just looking on Twitter, by the way, and Sam's Bulldog, you probably remember him, right, Dusty? Who's like an Uber Sam Harris fan. He said that he thinks Mick Jagger is the best rock frontman by a mile. We were talking about him a bit before. Like, he's got that stage presence. He
does. Yeah.
Yeah. Even now, seemingly, apparently, I haven't really seen that much, but apparently he even has that down now in like his 70s or however old he is.
Yeah, he still dances up a storm. Apparently he's a workout fanatic. Like, he works out every day, and apparently he's got like a newborn baby, if I'm not mistaken, like just a few years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, good for him, man.
That's insane.
Yeah. I was surprised enough that that ACDC still did an album, like, probably, I don't know, at least 5 or 10 years ago, or whenever it is that the album came out that made them do a concert. It was that one with the song Rock and Roll Train, which is why I ended up getting to see them live. Even back then, I thought, man, they're old as fuck. And I saw them interviewed, and they were like, yeah, we're old too, but there are even older people like Rolling Stones. Like, even back then, they were like noticeably older than AC/DC.
Yeah, well, I saw them. My sons love them. So probably 5 or 6 years ago, we saw them, and we could not help but notice, like, hey, that Brian Johnson's the same age as Grammy. and he would do a couple of songs, and he'd probably go backstage and suck down some oxygen. But still managed to. And yeah, I don't love the Rolling Stones, but Mick Jagger probably needs less oxygen because he's good.
Yeah. Well, one of the times when I saw Iron Maiden live, I was like to the side of the stage, so I could see that every time Bruce Dickinson would stop singing because someone was doing a guitar solo, he would go backstage and wipe himself off with a towel and guzzle a whole bunch of water and take a little break.
Yeah, well, I saw the 2 times I've seen him. It was in August, and he was wearing the Fusiliers jacket during oh man, you know the song. I can't think of the song. Not Run to the Hills, but the other one. And he's got it. He's mid-60s. No, it's the one, you take my life and I'll take yours too.
Oh yeah,
you know that one, the Trooper.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not thinking the
yeah,
Trooper.
the Trooper. Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's waving the flag around. He's wearing that heavy jacket. It had to be 90 degrees. Steve Harris was drenched in sweat. And this guy in his 60s, it is inspiring. Like, oh, I have a few years left where I can still be an idiot and do this stuff. But he had to be going back and cooling down because a normal person can't sustain that. And that's a guy who survived cancer.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He has a great autobiography. He had serious throat cancer.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Oh, McEldoon just said this in the comments. The older I get, the less I'm into the Beatles and the more I'm into the Rolling Stones. That's interesting. That's obviously that debate that everyone's seen people have on like movies and TV shows. Who do you prefer, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones? I kind of like both of them.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like both. I go through phases of both where I'll just throw on the Beatles for a while or I'll put on the Stones for a while. So yeah, I do like both as well.
I kind of overdosed on the Beatles to where I have zero bad to say about the Beatles, but I haven't wanted to listen to them in years. And the Rolling Stones, I like a couple of albums.
Yeah, not all their songs are good.
Yeah. And the more you listen to music, like I love the Beatles and I love the Stones, and they'll always be who they are. But the more you dip into different genres, and the more you go down the rabbit hole of like really good bands and really intricate musicians and albums and stuff like that, you look back on the Beatles and were they really that talented and good, or were they just happen to be two bands at the time that were in the right spot at the right time? You know what I mean? Like if the Rolling Stones and the Beatles came out today with brand new albums, would you honestly buy them? Probably.
Brand new albums as themselves today? No.
Or just like brand new, like you've never heard of the Beatles and Rolling Stones, like that movie where that guy, on planet Earth has heard of the Beatles except for him. But if that were to happen and the Beatles were to come out today and drop an album, you wouldn't hear of it at all. They'd just be some dad band, right? That from England that nobody would tune out. They just happen to be at the right place at the right time. And you could argue that a lot of Beatles and Stones were just taking, from Elvis, Buddy Holly, and a lot of those kind of and black jazz musicians and other genres before them, right? And they were just kind of doing what good music usually is taking something and kind of recreating it for now. But yeah, I can understand that argument of like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. They're good, but I just don't listen to them as much anymore just because.
Yeah. That's it. That reminded me too of how when we talked about Apocalypse Now, there's that one scene where they have a radio and a Rolling Stones song starts playing. Like that part of it is that like we were talking earlier about how now you can listen to a band's entire discography for free on YouTube, but back then, like this is the new shit that's popular and we're gonna play on the radio. Oh, you love it, don't you? Because it's popular and on the radio.
And you see the same things today, right? Like Justin Bieber is popular on the radio, and when he shows up in Australia for a world tour, all the girls go nuts at the airport, right? It's the same thing with Beatles. All the girls went nuts at the airport when they showed up because they were the only people on the radio, and you were forced to listen to them. Yeah, for sure.
No disrespect to either the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, but I think I'd just rather listen to the Doors over either of them.
Oh, okay. How come?
I don't know. I just like the Doors more.
Oh, okay. They have that song at the beginning of Apocalypse Now too, right? Which was totally fitting for the start of that movie.
Yeah. The Doors are very weird and unique in their own way. Yeah.
I'm actually not as familiar with them as the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, but I should listen to more of their music because I do like what I have heard of their music.
I like it because they have an organist. How can you beat that?
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me too. When we were talking about ACDC, earlier, I generally, like a lot of people, I hate the sound of the bagpipes. But that AC/DC song with Bon Scott, "It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll." I fucking love that song. That's one of my favorite AC/DC songs, and it has bagpipes in it.
So I actually like bagpipes.
Yeah?
Yeah, there was a band, Big Country. They made their guitars sound like bagpipes. I used to love them. And then Slade had a big song in the early 80s that did the same thing with the sound of bagpipes. So
that's interesting.
I do enjoy the bagpipes.
Do you think that Angus Young kind of did that with his guitar sound in "It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll"? Like, tried to make it sound like bagpipes to match Bon Scott's bagpipes?
With a little call and response bit for the solo. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Not in the same way. So the Big Country had this technique where they would play off the fretboard to get it to sound that way. So it was like they were really nailed the bagpipe sound. But yeah, I'd say he did a little bit of that. Angus Young doesn't get as much credit as he should for clever bits. Yeah,
for sure. Did you hear? I forget where I heard this, but I don't know whether it was a rumor or not that Bon Scott's parents demanded that he learn a musical instrument, so he learned the bagpipes just to piss them off, so they would get annoyed when he was practicing them.
Oh, I don't know. I know he could play the recorder, and I don't think it's too dissimilar. He was in a band called Fraternity, which was very hippie, and he played the recorder. So
I didn't know that.
You can find the video. The recorder is not a very rock and roll looking instrument to play, but I just thought it was that.
Elementary school.
Yeah, I still have a couple kicking around here somewhere.
Oh, that's cool. I've never even heard of a band that has a member who plays the recorder.
Oh, I'll send you a video.
Okay.
He's not the greatest frontman at the time.
Dusty and Chris, what do you guys think of the bagpipes?
I don't mind the bag. I like any kind of instruments. I'm not gonna lie though, ACDC's been brought up a lot tonight, and I never really. Maybe you guys can help me out, but I've never I like ACDC, but I was never one of these guys that was like, oh my god, ACDC is like the best band on the planet Earth. I maybe know a handful of their songs, but for me, I've always kind of found them as it's very similar. Like if I were to put an ACDC record, like maybe record number 3 or number 5, I think they would sound the same. Very beats are the same. It's very like R rock kind of which is fine. It's just never progressed and it wasn't that creative for me, I guess.
No, they even joke about it because I think they were on Stern and it was brought up that some critic accused us of having 15 records and they all sound the same.
Yeah.
Well, it's wrong because we have 18 records and they all sound the same. I love the tone of the guitar. I just love beyond anything the sound of distorted guitar,
right?
With a solid beat to it. And when I had this chat with Andrew before, like I don't want them to sound different. So maybe it's a comforting thing.
Yeah. And some bands, that's right. Like the Ramones, if they were to come out with a different sound, you'd be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So some bands are like totally based on that genre. It's just for me, I don't know, and the Ramones would be another example of this. If you're looking at like decades long creativity wise and something to keep me interested in listening to, AC/DC and the Ramones, I'll listen to your greatest hits, but I'm not going through your catalog and album wise because I know what I'm getting.
Right. Now their band so I was listening to today with my son and see every song they have is greatest hits because they're all the same. They're just different enough. Yeah. and they're undemanding. So anytime someone it's my I have plausible deniability for being a snob because I love AC/DC. Like, no, I love stupid stuff. I know they're stupid, but they're awesome stupid. You know, for the same reason I like Pacific Rim as a movie. It's dumb, but it's so good dumb.
Dusty and I were talking about that recently because Like, they're not good. It's not really good plot or characters or acting, but it's fucking awesome giant monsters fighting awesome giant robots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's our band credo too. We want to be the best bad band ever. We want to be the most fun, lousy band we could possibly be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And learning instruments is hard, but you can be an idiot easily. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
You got to do that fart machine deal. You got to do it.
Yeah, man.
it has been noted. As soon as we can have shows again.
Yeah,
And
and
you're gonna have to figure out how to turn that fog like green or yellow as well.
Yes. One step at a time, Dusty.
yeah,
One
that's
step
a
at a
good
time.
idea. It's gonna look more like the stereotypical depiction of farts, like the cartoonish version of it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Marty,
You could feed like one of the fog machine lanes into your pants. That would be awesome.
it just gets better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting about ACDC, because like it depends on the band about like whether it's a good, and depends on your personal preferences, of course, about like in terms of whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for the music to change. Because like we were talking about how, you know, like depending on how you look at it, ACDC's music all being similar can be good or bad depending on what you're looking for. And then we were mentioning other bands before, like Metallica. I mentioned, for example, about how like their first 4 albums are good, but then they changed their sound and they got kind of shitty too. So like that can happen too.
Yeah, I think there's like every artist or band kind of has like, they have a creative kind of like light bulb, right? And how long it can stay lit for is kind of interesting to me. You'll see some bands like Radiohead, for example, they've spanned a couple decades now and have consistently different albums. They've gone electronic, they've gone acoustic rock, they've gone hard rock, you name it, right? But they're always kind of like, if Radiohead comes out with an album next month, I don't know what the fuck I'm getting. It could be a rock album, it could be an electronic album. And for me, I just find that the more an artist can kind of expand my creative listening to it, I appreciate more. Not to say I don't appreciate the Ramones or Eagles or any of these other guys they're great. I just think that their creative capacity only lasts so long. It doesn't expand over. I don't know. It doesn't. It's nothing that is going to be like. It's more the same. Which works for some bands. It just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the Flaming Lips is another good example. I think you brought up the Flaming Lips.
Yeah.
I remember buying the Soft Bulletin and being aghast when I listened to it, and then listening to it and realizing, like, whoa, this is completely different from what I wanted, but it's so good. And the Clash did it too. So I do like seeing bands progress sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on the band.
Risks. I think bands that take risks, I have more appreciation for than just people that, and sometimes it's gonna fail, man. Like Smashing Pumpkins, that new album that they put out is horrible, and because they took a risk and it's not good. But at least I give them credit for at least taking a risk. So I don't know.
Yeah. That I haven't heard any newer Smashing Pumpkin stuff. I've only heard like their classic older ones that I still like to listen to sometimes.
Yeah, stick to that. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking too about how like there are some rappers who I like some of their earlier raps, but then they got all fucking like auto-tuney, and I can't stand this fucking auto-tuney rap. It just fucking ruins songs to me.
Yeah, the mumble rap. The mumble rap is a big thing. But same with hip hop, same with comedians, same with any kind of artistic venture you go into. If you're somebody that's always trying to push and do new things and come up with new ideas, I appreciate that more than just somebody that's just
this is popular, I should do it.
Yeah, we know what Pitbull's going to release on his next song, right? So
right. Well, like I don't really like Kanye West, but I respect that he goes out on a limb
Oh
with,
yeah.
with his
Yeah.
stuff. Like, oh, I don't like this song either, but I do like that he's doing this because that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I'm the same with Kanye. I don't mind his music actually. I wouldn't be. Yeah, like I don't know, but yeah, there's a little bit of a craziness to Kanye, and which I think good artists, unfortunately, or get. You know what I mean? All the crazy ones that, or all the ones that commit suicide, or all the ones that are, struggling with depression or whatever. Those are the real, true, good artists, and you get usually the best music out of them. So, yeah, I don't. I got love for Kanye, but yeah, just because Kanye's always kind of switched it up, he hasn't gone the way of who can I relate him to? I don't know, Puff Daddy or something like that. That would be like you know what a Puff Daddy hip hop album would contain, right? Whereas like Kanye's released gospel and he's released electronic hip hop, and he's done auto tune, and he's done like old school hip hop to begin with, right? So he's kind of gone over different rap genres.
Yeah. I'm not really a huge fan of his music either, but I also respect that he does some different shit. I think it's dumb though when people talk about how he's this musical genius. I'm like, yeah, he tries different stuff and a lot of people like it, which is cool, but I don't know, defining anyone as a musical genius is kind of tough to do in my opinion.
I think Prince was.
Yeah, no, I would say that he was a musical genius, and I would say that Prince is a musical genius too. If you get to that kind of level where you're selling billions of albums and like a majority of population digs your music, and you've changed the culture. Like Prince's Purple Rain, that was a huge soundtrack movie. Yeah, and it was.
Yeah, the movie itself, it's like, what is this? It's a movie based off of a song. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can say that about Kanye too, like how much he's affected culture, right? Like Mackle just said this. Mackle just said this in the comments. I like Kanye's music, but he'd be a better president.
But Kanye, for me, Kanye's only a genius as far as music goes. I don't think he's a genius politically. I don't think.
I don't think so.
Any other aspect. I think he's just his music is where he should just focus on, but unfortunately gets caught up in other things.
Well, but I loved that he did that. I loved that he did that so much that I made Nason, my guitar player, a presidential candidate, and we had a series of. Because people were just outraged that he would do that.
He showed me that, yeah.
Right? Like, no, that's kind of awesome that he's doing that too. Because I don't, unless he was doing it serious, in which case he's just nuts. But I don't think he was. Like, so.
I think he does. Like, he's a counterculture guy, right? This is the guy that's wore the MAGA hat and stuff like that. So whatever the mainstream is, he's doing the opposite.
Yeah,
and I have huge respect for those guys because you're gonna get backlash. You're gonna get those people like, why is he running for office? Seriously, this is a joke. But yeah, there's something to that where you're like, yeah, I kind of respect the guy that just says, fuck it, I don't care. This is me. This is who I am. Have my MAGA hat on, and I like Trump, and I'm starting my own presidency. So
well, that's John Lydon from the Sex Pistols. He got a ton of shit because he wore it was either a t-shirt or the hat, "Make America Great Again," and people flipped out. Now this is the punk rock world where it's like,
I know.
When did you become so orthodox? Like, first of all, it's Johnny Rotten, so you don't even know if he means it. And when did everything become so safe? I couldn't believe the whole thing, and I'd asked other people about it, like, with the riots at the Capitol too. Some of my friends were like, yeah, help the FBI out. Like, no, what are you doing? Like, no, I don't like those people, but I'm not helping the FBI, like, and since when did you become such a toady? Like the whole persona that you've built for yourself has been anti the man. And now, cause you don't like the other person, you're pro the man. I don't know. So I think Kanye was doing it as a bit of a, in the same way Johnny Rotten was doing it as a provocateur.
It's a counterculture thing with those guys, especially growing up. Like I get this too as somebody who has a somewhat creative brain. That mainstream kind of thinking or that mainstream kind of music that everybody, it just, I don't know. It's I'm sympathetic to those that throw up the middle finger to whatever is everybody else is listening or everybody else is doing, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that in today's era, at least while Trump was still president anyway, it was like rebellious to be a conservative Republican.
Yeah. Well, those are the punks now, man. If somebody had a great meme up the other day where it was like a girl and she was covered in tattoos and there was like normie, and then you had this Christian girl that was sitting there with her legs crossed looking all innocent, and it was like punk underneath her. It's so true that it's flipped the way culturally we are now. Like the Christian conservative is looked at as like punk fringe and like I can't believe, like if I were to buy a PragerU shirt and wear that in my town, people would be like, that would be like Johnny Rotten
right
wearing the, I don't know, fuck Bush or something like that back in the day, or you know what I mean? Like
it's like Dave Smith said, the comedian.
Yep.
I like him.
Love him.
Says he's like, when he's talking about Trump and the CIA, he's like, I'm pretty sure that the reason the CIA hates Trump is very different from the reason your lesbian sister hates Trump.
Yeah.
Like, and you need to stop and take a look at that. Like, again, all of a sudden, like, wait a minute. On Facebook or social media, my punk rock friends would be like, oh, he hates the FBI and the CIA. He's like, yeah, so do you.
Yeah,
wait a minute.
I grew up hating government and all that.
Right. Like all of a sudden you're, I don't know. I don't believe in selling out, but you're compromising your principles at the very least. Yeah.
That's
it was fighting back. It was fighting against the man, and now like you want the man to do stuff. The man is cool or something.
Well, when you can use the man against your enemy, I guess it's okay. But sometimes your enemy, the enemy of your enemy, is also your enemy.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, true.
Dusty, what do you think about all this? Haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of bucking of principles because the enemy is conveniently bad at the moment. Like I see that all the time, especially when it comes to like free speech, and it kind of sucks too when you see people freaking out over some stupid thing some celebrity does. Like they're supposed to be in some specific category, have some certain political views, and it's stupid.
It is.
I don't get it.
Like how many times we're going to try to cancel Chris Pratt, right?
What was it?
I didn't know we were canceling
this time.
I didn't hear about that. What happened?
Last time, what was he? Was hunting. He hunted something, and people got all pissed off.
And then there was before, it was because he was wearing a Gadsden flag on his shirt or something like that. They were trying to cancel him for. And I forget, but
Isn't he like a conservative Christian or something like that too? Did I hear that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really. Who cares? I don't really care what any Hollywood celebrities' politics are. In general,
just make movies that I like.
Yeah, just make movies, and same with music. I don't really care if you like. They canceled Ariel Pink. I don't know if you know what that is.
Oh yeah.
Who cares? Like, is his music good? Okay, I'll listen to it. It doesn't matter to me what his political views are.
Ted Nugent doesn't suck because of his political views. Ted Nugent sucks because he sucks.
Yeah.
Like, listen to his records. That's why you should hate Ted Nugent. He's not good.
For sure.
Yeah, it's stupid. Like I don't get this idea that people have where, this artist should get canceled because of their views on one thing or nothing or another. Like, what does that have to do with their fucking art? Nothing.
Yeah, and if you were to go through time and cancel every kind of artist that's been doing shady shit, I mean.
Yeah, and it's funny because like 90% of the people that want to cancel X are people that don't consume X's content.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Like, we should cancel Joe Rogan because I heard that he's transphobic.
Yeah, there's still like threads today on Twitter of people discovering what's that movie with Robert Downey Jr. where he wears blackface?
Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, where like
yeah.
it's like millennial or Gen Z's discover Tropic Thunder for the first time, and they're like, "Oh my god, this guy should get canceled!" Like, there's like a whole.
Guess what? None of them talk about Simple Jack. It's only the blackface that they
Right.
talk about.
Good point.
Yeah.
I've seen nothing about them being mad about Simple Jack.
Yeah,
And arguably, Simple Jack is arguably worse.
yeah.
Sad thing is, those movies that wasn't that long ago. I think Tropic Thunder was early 2000.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up the date. I remember seeing that in the theater. It feels like it was less than a decade ago.
Yeah, I forget what day it was anyway.
Yeah, it was in the first, like the mid or early 2000s.
I'm gonna check here. But yeah, I don't think it was that long ago. Oh, 2008.
Yeah.
Oh, like almost
12
2.
years.
Wow.
So a little
That's
more.
pretty late.
Yeah.
Later than I thought.
It's funny that I guess the Gen Zers are pretty young, but that they are discovering it for the first time.
Yeah.
That's like even worse than when I was working at Sport Check. There was this younger girl who was working there too, and I was talking to her one day, and she didn't know who Sean Connery was. I'm like, James Bond, the first one.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's crazy when people don't remember what September 11th was like, right? I'm only 40, but I remember that like it was yesterday. And you run into a young person. It's like, I wasn't alive when that happened. It's like, that's weird.
Yeah. You know what? Wait, how many years ago was that? That was 20. Yeah, I guess it was 20, right?
19 and a half anyway.
I was just doing math in my head. I was thinking, I wonder if I've had sex with chicks who were born after 9/11.
Probably have.
I have not.
With chicks that have not experienced the United States not at war.
Oh yeah, I bet that's probably the case.
Yeah. Or people that have been like, I'm one of the last generations that knows what life was like before the internet, right? As iPhone 5 came out or internet came out when it's like when I grew up, played on my bike and didn't have any kind of video. Well, we had Mario 3 or whatever, but these people growing up today, they just know internet and Amazon and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember having dial-up internet.
You were alive back when the Soviet Union was a thing.
Yeah, when the wall was up. Yeah.
Well, I was just telling my kids about how we used to have to wait with a cassette player, and hope the song you liked would come on.
Yeah.
Because the only way you could get that song was to be lucky and be listening at the right time.
Yeah.
And I can still do the radio stings.
DJ didn't screw it up.
Right, exactly. So we were listening to it, and as the song intro would be on 345 WKKX, and then it would come in with the vocal. Like, that's what we used to have to deal with all the time. And then over the fade out, they'd be like, it's sunny and 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? Like, yeah, you kids don't know how good you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my day,
we
recorded our music.
Yeah, I think you guys are all older than me, but I even remember like when I was a kid, for most of the time when I was growing up until maybe high school or so, I had dial-up internet. I remember like when I was in high school, like trying to look up porn sites and having to wait 5 minutes for the page to load and shit like that.
And you have to hope that nobody calls at the same time and cuts off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You just get to the collarbone and interrupted.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. All right. I think I should get going pretty soon, guys. I was gonna hang out with a friend.
Cool.
It was
cool.
good to talk with all you guys. This is fun.
Yeah, it was
We
fun.
should do
Yeah.
it- we should do it about some other sort of musical topic, or topic based on music, I should say, not a musical topic. Like,
I'm
Well, we
happy to
can
talk
have,
about anything or
Jenkins-
pretend to know I know something.
yeah,
Yeah,
Would you say
Jenkins
that?
should report back to us once he creates the whole fart machine deal.
Yeah,
I
I
really want to
definitely
hear
will.
about that.
I
Yes.
definitely will.
yes, very important.
My buddy may not be my buddy afterwards. Nah, he'll be so
Your
drunk he won't even
goal-
remember it.
I think your goal should be to get at least one audience member like hurling at some point with that, using that machine.
We've had band members hurling, so yeah, it's not that much of a stretch.
Oh,
But that was our last show, last January 19th. Guitar player threw up on the bass player.
that's over a year ago now, eh?
It was a great time.
Was that during the show?
I was right it was right after.
Oh, okay.
It was a fine cap to the night, but I'd say the audience member is the next logical step. Get the audience member to throw up on the bass player.
Yeah, you'd have to projectile unless they're like really close, right?
Yeah. Well, we could work it.
Yeah,
Again, the front man is the ringmaster. I'll figure out a way to bring them close.
yeah.
If
Yeah,
the payoff is throw up, I'm in.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, yeah, I'll say all the stuff I like to say at the end of my videos here, and then you guys can plug your bands and whatnot and anything else and give any last words there. So thanks everyone for watching another episode of the Mindgasms Podcast. Hope you found this as fun and interesting as we did. And I'm sure we're all about highbrow intellectual discussions here of course. And yeah, thanks to everyone who subscribed to the channel and click the like button on the video, click that bell to be notified whenever I come out with new videos. And thanks to Mackle for commenting, and thanks to anyone else who comments, and thanks especially to those of you who give me money on Patreon, which I always appreciate the most. And I'll add the link for my page in the description of this video, as I always do. And most importantly, of course, always remember this: I love you all, and the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart, and listen to lots of different awesome kinds of music, and try to not take yourself so seriously. And for some reason, it's punk to be a Christian conservative, which is funny. And yeah, you guys want to say your bands and any other plugs you want, and any last words there?
You can check out thefots.com if you wanna learn about the awesomeness that is the Frenzy of Tongs.
Yes.
THEFOTS.com.
And you're
Did
on
you say the
Instagram
frenzy
too, right?
of tonks?
Tongs.
Tongs.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Well, that would be a
Potter?
good name too, but it's too late now.
Yeah.
I'm the only whore here. Oh, great.
What about you, Chris? I know you.
Sorry, I was just looking up our website so I can check it out later. Yeah. You can find my band on Spotify or Apple Music, anywhere. We're called Partners in Health. Yeah, I know, not the greatest band name now.
That's a funny name for right now.
That
Yeah.
is a very funny name.
Yeah, it is. It never became funny until obviously.
What do
we
you
went through a
do?
pandemic.
Like, are you gonna start dressing up as like Fauci or something?
No. It was just like, yeah, guys that
It sounds like a Zen retreat or something. Or-
It could be a Zen retreat. You could
It sounds like a Zen retreat for woke people who are really, really obsessively worried about coronavirus and never leave their homes.
Yeah, true. It could be
That's
all
such a
those
weird
things.
name, man. Like, who came up with that?
Me and the guitarist came up with it. So we've had it for the last 10 years. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a startup, like medical practice.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah,
It's,
you should sell the vaccine.
Yeah, I did. Well, before a pandemic, it was, but yeah, I've had this conversation a million times because that's usually everybody's response is, "What the fuck is that as a name?" But, I'm not gonna lie, that's what I kind of like. I like people. I like, and our music is like that. We don't like, we do
Cut out.
Uh-oh.
Oh, your audio cut out there, Chris.
Uh-oh. Nope, still gone.
Still can't hear you. Oh, that's too bad. Dusty, you go ahead.
Yeah, just check out the Woke Centrist channel. Friggin' Andrew's on there all the time. So
Just every week.
yeah, just check that out. Musically, I haven't really done any gigging for like 6 years, so I have nothing really to share there. But yeah, what's our next thing that we're doing, by the way?
On your
So tell
channel,
everybody.
I think I guess probably next week we're doing the next Crown of Swords chat, I bet, right?
Yeah, well, I was asking you about what
on
you're doing
Mindgasms?
on your channel. Yes.
Yeah, the next one tomorrow we're going to talk about Well of Ascension. Oh, I can hear you now, Chris.
Okay, weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Well of Ascension with Tristram, which is Mistborn Era 1 Book 2, awesome fantasy series. And yeah, so what were you saying there, Chris, before your sound got cut off?
Oh yeah, I was just saying that the band name it's we don't do anything normal. So like when you're like, oh my god, that's the worst band name ever, it kind of goes with like, we play weird like tunings. I put like capo on number 7 and detune my guitar, and like whatever the normal is, like we go the opposite of. So that's
that's cool.
When people are like, oh, that's the worst name ever, I'm like, yeah, it is. But
so you're also like conservative Christian MAGA guys, right?
yes. Only MAGA hats at our shows.
Right. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. And thanks again, everyone, for watching. And adios until next time.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.